Healy says the state's shelter system could reach its capacity of 7,500 families by month's end. She says it's been expanding at an unsustainable rate, driven in part by the arrival of migrant families. State Representative Carlos Gonzalez is a Democrat from Springfield.
Difficult times bring back an opportunity to revisit some of the present laws that are in place. And I think that the right to shelter was put in place when there was just an opportunity for people that were facing hardship and crisis and was more of a manageable level.
Gonzalez says he'd like to see the federal government speed up work authorizations for recent arrivals to the U.S. That's something Governor Healy has already requested. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Alden Bourne.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live as we do every Tuesday and Friday from the Boston Public Library. I want to mention I want to mention first that we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. But I have a programming note. The Israeli Consul General to New England will join us tomorrow to discuss the latest out of the Middle East. And Friday, Lavender D'Arcangelo, America's Got Talent finalist, will perform for us here at the library. She is unbelievable. She's going to sing a song by herself, and she's going to sing a song with her father.
We hope.
Not to be missed.
Yeah, we also have one other programming announcement, which we've known about for a long time, but is just made official about an hour ago. Starting in early November, weekly on Fridays, and then in December, daily, there will be a new hour show.
Yes.
Immediately following ours, Boston
exciting.
Public Radio, hosted by our good friend Jared Bowen.
That's right.
The Culture Show. Everything, I don't know if there's anything like this in the country. Everything about the arts. He'll be assisted by Callie Crossley, James Bennett, Edgar B. Herrick III. The producer is our brilliant former producer, Chelsea Mers, assisted by Brian Bell, who we've also had work with us, our old place. I am so excited about this thing. And Jared's going to be with us on Friday. He'll fill in all the blanks. But it is now official.
Well, the word is Jimmy couldn't take co-hosting with you, so he needed to get his own show, and now he has one. We're very excited. It'll be great.
Again,
he knows everything there is to know about the arts and culture. He's great.
Well, it starts early November, weekly again on Fridays, and then December 4th, every single day, 5 days a week, following Boston Public Radio. Again, Jared will join us on Friday to fill in the blanks, but congratulations to all involved. First, by midday today, Ohio Republican Jim Jordan might very well be the new Speaker of the House. As you know, the chamber was thrown into chaos and ultimately paralyzed amid incredible divisions in the GOP after Speaker McCarthy was ousted by the far-right wing of the party. Now, ordinarily, I have to say, we wouldn't talk about a speaker fight, a House speaker fight. But without a speaker, as we've all learned, Congress is unable to do anything. They can't consider, we just heard a minute ago, U.S. and Israel are talking about humanitarian aid to Gaza. Congress is talking about military aid to Israel to eliminate Hamas, fund the government, Ukraine, etc. And there's also a threat of another government shutdown. So our lines are open at 877-301-8970. Let me put this as fairly as I can. Could there be a worse candidate for Speaker of the House of Representatives, who, by the way, is second in line to the presidency after the vice president of the United States, Jim Jordan? Now, if you don't know about Jordan, he is a far-right ideologue, conspiracy theorist, Trump sycophant, His most notable accomplishment is organizing the House Freedom Caucus, I think it was 2015, a merry band of fellow conspiracy theorists. He is not, this is in the Washington Post this morning, he has not sponsored a single bill that has become law in his 20 years in office. And his life before politics isn't without scandal either. He was the assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State. At least 4 wrestlers, I think as many as 6, have said he knew about and ignored rampant sexual abuse by a team doctor. So that could be the next Speaker of the House.
He refused to participate in the investigation of that, too.
And refused to participate, answer a subpoena in the January 6th investigation. This could be the next Speaker in the House. And again, after the Vice President, the next in line for the presidency of the United States. I guess the question is, are we doomed? I mean, you know, you often say, especially with Trump, can it get any worse than this? And then it does.
Yeah.
Can it get any worse? I literally, if you were to say to me, there are 435 members of the House. I think there are like 220 or something Republicans, very slim majority. Among the, I always get nervous with you if among is the right word. Among the 220-some Republicans, is that right?
I believe that is correct,
Okay,
yes.
Among the 220-some Republicans, if I said to you, pick the least qualified, most dangerous member of the House to be the Speaker of the House, would you not say Jim Jordan?
Well, you know what was really disturbing? When the Washington Post asked his spokesman to name some of the things he's accomplished in Congress, because you point out he hasn't passed any bills, what does the Jordan spokesman cite? Expediting passports.
Is that what?
As we all know, as we all know,
well, that actually does
when you think of what your congressman can do for you, he can expedite your passport. I believe you just have to pay extra, and you can expedite it by yourself. But that's a pretty small accomplishment. He visits a lot of businesses in Ohio.
That's good.
And he expedites passports.
So there's this nonpartisan organization, nonprofit organization too, that does an analysis of who are the least and most effective members of Congress. They rated him the 5th least effective member of Congress. I'll do the math for you, which means they rated 430 other Congress people as more effective members of Congress. Again, the voting starts at noon. We may bring you the results by the end of our show.
Don't sell him
He could be the Speaker by the end of the day.
You know who he beats?
Who?
He beats Marjorie Taylor Greene and
Lord
Boebert from Colorado. Hey, the other thing is, we have to play a clip from him. I mean, if we have to listen to this guy, I mean, you think it was bad having to listen to Donald Trump all the time? If you had to listen to this guy, here he is, when he has mastered the art of the unending monologue. It's kind of like, what does Steve Bannon call it when you flood the zone? You just never shut up. You never shut up. You never shut up. Well, here's a clip from a 2021 hearing on vaccine mandates.
They got till November 1st. If they don't get a vaccine, they're fired. That exists. Tell that to the healthcare workers who just got canned in New York. The heroes, you all called them heroes. We all called them heroes because they were a year ago. Tell that to them. Something that doesn't exist. That is the dumbest thing I've heard said today. Holy cow.
And
why do we cut that off there? There's a great line after that. He said, but I can expedite all of their passports, even if they're fired.
But here's the thing, that's slow motion for him, really. I mean, it's and they do that the guy from New Hampshire, what's his name? Corey, whatever his name is, Atkins. What's the guy's name for
Lewandowski. Lewandowski did something else.
Yeah, the guy that got into a baseball battle with his neighbor over something up there in New Hampshire.
We've had him on the show.
I interviewed him. It was a big mistake. You could never get him to shut up.
I interviewed him in his office in Washington on the eve of the inauguration of Donald Trump. We looked out the window of his office. He pointed to the White House, said, "Do you know what that room is? Is Donald Trump, President Trump's bedroom." And you know what he did? He started to weep. On my, we'll raise your right hand, Jim. On my honor. He was actually very nice to us, but nevertheless.
No, he wasn't.
No.
He may have been nice
about when
to
he was nice to me.
in the early days. I think it was one of the, I was ever sorry.
We also abused that. Didn't he do something? He pushed that woman report.
Yeah.
Who cares about Corey Lewandowski? We're talking about potentially the next Speaker of the House. The voting starts at noon. He says that a la the McCarthy thing, they'll take as many ballots as is necessary to elect him. I have to say, it is probably unlikely that he's going to get there, but that's not really the point to me. The fact that he is the Republican nominee of the Republican caucus to be the Speaker of the House speaks to the demise of democracy as we are watching. 877-301-8097. Let's take some calls.
Okay, just one thing about the wrestling thing.
Oh.
You know, he was a coach at
Assistant
Ohio State. Yes, he was. And apparently everybody knew about this. Ohio State had to pay millions and millions of dollars to these hundreds of athletes that were abused by this doctor. The coaches knew about it. The trainers knew about it. They had a big investigation. Jim Jordan refused to participate in the investigation. Why? Because he knew he was guilty. And there was
just to be fair, even though it's preposterous, he says he didn't know anything about it.
Somehow he didn't know. Everybody else knew about it, but he didn't know about it. So we had 4 of these wrestlers just a couple of weeks ago in Capitol Hill come up and say he knew about this whole thing. They had one of the brothers of these wrestlers that went forward who talked about, not a couple of weeks ago, but he said this before, that Jim Jordan called me crying, groveling on the 4th of July, begging me to go against my brother who talked about the abuse, begging me, crying for a half hour. This is the person who was an assistant coach over young men in a school that everybody knew about, and he's lying about it then, and he's lying about it now.
I guess you haven't heard of the fact that a guy who was found liable for sexual abuse of a woman is the leading Republican candidate for the presidency. Are you aware of that?
Well, I am aware of that. I mean, let's take.
Can we get some calls? By the way, the show's almost over.
Okay, well, let's take some calls. Tom from Gloucester. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm great, Jim and Marjorie. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I don't think Jordan will be elected. The 18 Republicans, congressmen who were elected for Biden districts, most of them will probably vote against him, knowing that if they vote for Jordan, they will lose their seats in November 2024. There is a senior Republican who will eventually, I think, be drafted to be Speaker, a guy named Tom Cole.
From Oklahoma,
Committee, and he
hey, Tom, I hate to interrupt you, but let me just say, you're probably right. I do agree with you. It's unlikely he becomes Speaker, but that doesn't change the fact that a guy with all the attributes that Marjorie and I have mentioned was the nominee of the Republican caucus and is probably going to get within 20 votes, as I say, of being the next in line after the vice president to be the president of the United States. That doesn't change. It's sort of like how I feel about Donald Trump. Marjorie always says, well, he's not going to win the presidency. I'm not so sure. Even if he doesn't, 70, 80 million people are going to say, we want this guy who is a credibly accused insurrectionist, sexual abuser, on and on and on, to be the next president of the United States. That's the issue.
Hold on.
Tom, thanks.
I mean, I hope Tom is right, and I hope you're right.
Yeah.
But what's going on now is he's launched, Jordan, this lobbying campaign, which is not to be believed. He's got Fox News, Sean Hannity. Their producers are calling up all these Republicans and saying, why aren't you supporting Jim Jordan? We want to know why you're not supporting Jim Jordan. Because the idea is if they don't support Jim Jordan, they'll run a real right-wing wingnut in the Republican side.
But as Tom said, these are moderate. I'm not supporting the tactics. These are moderate districts that Tom McCullough was talking about.
Again, but who votes in a lot of these Republican primaries? They're not necessarily moderate voters, right?
Maybe so. I'm with Tom. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't even think that's the issue. The issue for me is this is a guy who supported an insurrection. He voted with 100 and some other Republicans in the House not to certify the election, then plotted with Trump to overthrow the popular will. This is the guy who is the leader of the Republicans, at least today.
Oh, let's sum up. Okay. The probable candidate is looking at 91 felony counts, and 24 some women have accused him of sexual harassment.
And he's found liable of sexually abusing one.
Then we got Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, who obviously sexually harassed Anita Hill. And then we got, maybe he's sorry for it now, for the high school. Kavanaugh for the high school incident where he allegedly tried to rape a high school person. And then we've got the sex abuse cover-up guy, third in line to the presidency. So we're doing well. 877.
And by the way, if he becomes Speaker, the Republicans control the House. All these issues that we talked about that I think are important to every one of our listeners, he will be the chief voice on. And by the way, I know you don't like hearing this. As of the other day, Donald Trump, average polling in Real Clear Politics, was 1 point ahead of Joe Biden despite this all. So
No, I think we're doing well.
Got
them right where we want them.
We got them right where we want them. Exactly.
Okay. We're going to keep talking about Jim Jordan, the possible next Speaker of the House. We haven't mentioned what's going on with the jacket. What's with no jacket?
It's an effect thing.
Yeah, but what's the message there? I'm not sure.
I'm one of you is the notion.
Is that the message?
No, it is. The message is for all you insurrectionists, sexual abusers out there. I'm one of you.
Okay.
And I think that's a good campaign theme, obviously.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. We'll be right back. So guess what, Jim? We have a new gift today.
I know. I actually like it a lot.
It is a new GBH cargo organizer. Our colleague Maeve showed it to us this morning. It's this black thing with the GBH logo on the side.
I'll hold it up.
Yeah, very nice.
If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook.
There on the
I'm
screen
doing it.
there.
What do you think? What is this?
And you can put it in the back of your car.
It's like an
for all your
accordion
folders,
kind of thing.
or you can put your groceries in there.
You can.
Keep things neat in the back of your car, in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Thank you.
It's a limited offer, available just till 2 o'clock this afternoon. It comes in black, expandable trunk organizer, and it has 2 sections, Jim.
Wow.
Outer side pocket and reinforced handles and folds for easy storage. And of course, you have the logo on the side. So if you sign up as a standing member for $10 a month or make a one-time gift of $120, you can get the new cargo organizer as to thank you for your contribution to GBH, but you can only get it till 2 o'clock this afternoon. So if you're interested in that, or you're interested in just contributing because you haven't contributed yet and you listen to us a lot, we'd really appreciate it. The number is 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
I would respectfully say you left out the most, I think, alluring part of this. You mentioned in passing it has 2 sections. One of the sections is large enough to hide in if Jim Jordan is elected Speaker. So that's what I would be doing.
Can you imagine
just jump right in there.
Your blood pressure if this guy is elected Speaker. That will be
That is like the least significant thing to me.
Well,
in any
it bothers
case,
me, Jim.
Okay, fine. So in any case, this is actually, I don't think we've ever done this before. I like this. It's got the logo. Everybody loves the logo. I love the logo too. It's a really functionable kind of thing, Jim. Easy for you to say. It's $10 a month, $120 all at once. And the $10 a month thing is what we call sustaining membership. And what it means is you give the same amount every month, whatever it is. If it's $2 a month is what you want to do that. If it's $5 a month, we'd love that too. $10 a month, you qualify to get this actually really nice cargo organizer kind of thing for messy people, and Marjorie and I are both we're fairly messy. There's nothing wrong with that. We are what we are. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Tomorrow, I think, is the last day of the pledge. So if you really care about what you hear on the station and you haven't yet given, I would say get with the program relatively quickly, or else it's over tomorrow, you forgot to do it, you feel bad because you really like the work that our colleagues do. Not only the work our colleagues do, starting in 2 weeks, Jared Bowen is going to be hosting what ultimately by December is going to be a daily culture show on the arts.
We're getting texts from people who are very happy because they miss his TV show, and so do I.
It's going to be absolutely great. So in any case, if you support any of that stuff, then support us by calling 888-897-9424 or go to gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. In 38 minutes, the House of Representatives, that essentially has been shut down since they vacated the chair, to use the term, got rid of Kevin McCarthy, is going to start meeting and ultimately vote and decide if Jim Jordan from Ohio is to be the next Speaker of the House. We mentioned that he voted against the certification of Biden, that he has never sponsored one bill, that he was voted or rated the 5th least effective member of Congress, that he has helped cover up and lie about the sexual assault of wrestlers at Ohio State. And I forgot to mention that he also voted, I think twice, against funding for 9/11 victims, which is really a nice and patriotic thing to do. He could be the next speaker by the time we finish the show or you go to bed. Let's go to Roy in the car. You're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you for calling. Hey, Roy.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Love your show.
Thanks.
I just want to point out you haven't mentioned one of the more heinous things that Jordan has done just within the last year.
What's that?
When that 10-year-old girl was pregnant, and
In Ohio.
he was supporting the Ohio abortion law where nobody, including for a mother's health or rape or incest, could get an abortion in the state. He was all for that. And when it came out that girl had to go to Indiana, he claimed there was no such person. It hadn't happened. It was more lies from the left. And when it turned out he was wrong, it was in a tweet. He immediately took it down. He said nothing about it. He issued no apology. He's just like Trump in attacking innocent victims first and not worrying about what happens and what the impact is. And my concern is you can bet if he falls short by just a few votes, Trump will be out front trying to trash and threaten those who vote against Jordan and trying to get him over the finish line.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me.
That was a really
Roy,
important thing, Roy. I'm really
We
glad you
should
brought
have
it up.
mentioned that,
We
and
should have.
thank you so much for reminding us that that was just really made you sick to your stomach.
You know, by the way, and Roy, if he comes within a few votes, if people remember the 15 votes it took to get Kevin McCarthy? If he's like 40 votes off, it's not going to happen. If he's a handful of votes off, exactly what she described, Roy described, who was the congressperson? Was it Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene who held up her phone? And on the phone it said DJT, Donald J. Trump.
I don't know.
Was calling, attempting to coerce members of the House into voting for his candidate at the time, my Kevin, as he called Kevin McCarthy. And he's obviously even closer to Jim Jordan. Roy, thanks for a
Apparently
great
they
call.
have a nickname for Jim Jordan in Ohio.
What is it?
It's G-Y-M,
Yeah.
Jim Jordan, the Bernie Law of Ohio State. Kind of like that one.
You know, and again, refused, this is a guy who wants to lead the House, refused the subpoena from the January 6th committee.
Well, it's against the law. These things are like law-breaking kind of things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't matter, I guess, to them. But somebody just texted a little while ago and said that the silver lining. Oh, here it is. This is Glenn from Franklin saying the silver lining of a Jim Jordan speakership is it would be another giant step toward the continuing destruction of the Republican Party. You know, maybe.
I'm sorry. You know, Donald Trump is tied or leading in the race for the presidency. So what destruction is happening as a result of Trump and Trumpists being in positions of authority? Did you see a senior Republican senator who is relatively well respected endorsed another insurrectionist? What's her name? The woman who lost the governor's race in Arizona.
Oh yeah, Lake.
Carrie Lake, who just announced her candidacy for the United States Senate seat. I mean,
I also have a text from Grant in Connecticut, and I think he thinks that I'm underestimating the importance of an expedited passport.
No, it's important.
And the great work that Jim Jordan has done on behalf of expediting passports.
No, that's a good point.
Because he said he waited 3 months, even expedited, and didn't get one, and he had to cancel his trip.
You know, can you answer this question honestly? If you had a choice between a principled, decent Speaker of the House, who could not expedite your passport. Now, I mean, be honest. Don't BS here. Or an insurrectionist who knew about sexual abuse of young men and covered it up, but could expedite your passport. Who would you? Are you making that up, by the way? His staff person really said that was one of his greatest accomplishments.
I'll find you the quote in just a second.
I believe you, that's what you said.
Oh, yeah, he said, okay, this is his spokesperson, Russell Dye. He says, Congressman Jordan has always done what he told voters he would do, whether it's assisting seniors getting Medicare and Social Security benefits. We can agree that's a great thing. The second thing he lists, expediting passports.
Okay.
Touring hundreds of businesses in Ohio's 4th District. The point is, he's never done anything that has anything to do with
serving the people of the United States or Ohio.
I mean, Kevin McCarthy, you may have liked him or not liked him, but he sponsored 17 bills that passed, 8 became law. Steve Scalise, who was in the running for a while.
17 became law, but 8 were substantial, meaning they were not like acknowledge someone's birthday.
Well, they say
something.
5.
Yeah.
5 of those laws were regarded as substantial. Scalise sponsored 8 substantial bills that passed, including one that became law. So they were doing some work that had to do with making things better for the American people, but he didn't do it. How many Benghazi hearings did he scream at Hillary Clinton through?
Yeah.
I mean, it was 8 or 9. It was just insane. Let's go to Ellen in the car. Hi, Ellen.
Ellen, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm sorry to say, I think he's going to be elected.
Me too.
I think that they're going to be terrified of Fox and Trump, and I think they're going to bank on America's tendency toward amnesia. and they'll think that everybody will forget about it in 2024. And we'll have a billion other bad things that happen between now and 2024. And they'll also bank on America's arrogance that nothing like happens all over the rest of the world can happen here.
Right.
So we continue to let these clowns run the show, and when something bad goes on, we're going to all stand there, and some people will stand there in shock.
Well,
And the rest of us will be like, this is happening.
Can I try to make the best of a bad situation, Ellen and Marjorie? When does your passport expire, Ellen? Do you know?
Not for a few years.
Oh, so
No,
I guess that's not going to be that
call
helpful.
on the phone. But, you know, I
Ellen,
think...
I hope you're wrong, but thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
I hope she's wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But what I'm afraid of is that this requires profiles and courage from enough Republican congressmen. This requires enough Republican congressmen, even in those Biden districts, to not be afraid of getting outflanked by a real right-wing nut. And I don't think we have a lot of profiles and courage right now in the Republican Party, obviously, because as everybody talks about, they're all talking about behind closed doors. They can't stand Trump. They think he's crazy, blah, 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 blah. But in public, they do a 180 and say he's their guy. So there's not a lot of stand-upness.
I think it's stand-upitude.
Whatever
is the expression you're looking for.
Stand-upitude. Bill in the truck, thank you for calling.
You have a minute, Bill. Take it away.
Okay, real quick. Jim, I agree with you 100%. And I'd point one thing about the Republican Party. Very few stand up. It took Mitt Romney a decision not to run before he started speaking out. And it's really scary to me. There's no one in that party that's willing. I think we should rename it. Instead of the GOP, it should be the GOP, Grand Old Bullies. And basically, I think that's all they are.
Bill, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Sadly, I agree with you, too.
Okay, we are going to talk in just a second with Trenny Casey, our sports authority from NBC Sports Boston. You're listening to Boston Public Radio. What is she going to touch on? Of course, the desperation in Gillette. What is going on with the New England Patriots? You're listening to Boston Public Radio live from the Boston Public Library. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
So here's the deal. What do you call these enticements? I don't like that. What do you what's the other thing?
I just call them enticements, but you could call...
Gift.
Gifts. You could just say they're gifts.
Okay,
That's right.
so if you give $10 a month, or I assume $120, yes, all at once, you get this. This is a new gift. I really like this. It's an expandable trunk organizer. You know what that is? It's like a thing so your crap's not all over, running all over the place. You put it neatly in one of the two sections. It's got an 89.7 logo. And much more important, by the way, it's gone at 2 o'clock, so you got to get it at 2 o'clock or else you don't get it. The best part of it is not the organizer itself. The best part of it is if you give $10 a month to $120 all at once, it's going to what we hope you consider to be pretty important radio here in Boston. As I said, we just announced, well, we didn't announce, GBH announced, and we're reiterating. There's a new show coming in a couple of weeks here, thanks to contributions of people like you.
I'm very excited.
The Culture Show, helmed by Jared Bowen, led by brilliant producer Chelsea Mers, some of our colleagues, Callie Crossley, Edgar B. Herrick III, James Bennett. They're all going to be involved in this thing. It's going to be I don't know anybody else that has this. Maybe they do, but I don't know about it. It's a huge thing. It's only made possible thanks to the generosity of people like you. And today we want to thank you if you give 120 or 10 all at once with this really nice, what's it called again? Trunk organizer.
Trunk organizer.
With a couple of...
a cargo organizer.
Whatever. I mean,
yes.
Trunk, cargo.
Cargo that you put in the trunk.
Okay, it's fine. It's an organizer for all the crap in the car.
So this is the next to last day of our fall membership drive. And as I always say, this is today and tomorrow, then it's done. And that means you just have nothing but news and broadcasting from here on out to the next membership drive. Yeah. And the reason I say that, of course, is because if we didn't have these, from time to time, we would have the very long commercials, which are really hard. I can't watch commercials on television anymore. It's almost like I have to tape everything so I can fly through the commercials. And if you're streaming, you don't get the free service with the commercials. I can't even stand that anymore. I don't want to see any more commercials or hear any more commercials. So anyway, We have these drives from time to time, and then we are done, and we have commercial-free radio after that. And we can do that because of the generosity of people that listen to us. We don't put up any paywalls or anything like that. You can listen to us for free, but if you listen to us a lot and you'd like to throw us some money, we'd really appreciate it, a little bit or a lot if you're in a position to give a lot. The number again, 888-897-9424. That's 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're joined now at the library by Trenny Casey. Trenny's an anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston and a BPR contributor. Hello, Trenny.
Hi, guys.
Hey there.
Hello, Trenny Casey. Well, we're going to start, of course, with the Patriots. And Jim has got me hooked on these sound bites from Bill Belichick at these press conferences with the reporters. I'm going to.
You mean these? No. Yes. We're starting over.
Yeah, exactly. Here's one. I think this was from Sunday. He's giving a vague and somewhat snarky answer to a reporter's question about a specific play. Here it is.
Bill, Devontae Parker said that he got his fingertips on the ball late in the game from Mac Jones. I'm just curious to hear what you saw in that play.
Yeah, it was on the other side of the field.
Okay. Let's...
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I don't know.
You know,
why would he see it?
There's no replays. I don't have 55 monitors all over the place.
Okay.
I don't know. I will say this, Jim, and I know that this is an issue with you that people don't sort of push back.
Yeah.
There has been a groundswell of pushing back on this now because now you listen to talk radio and guys are like, hey, listen, you want to win 6 Super Bowls? You got Tom Brady. You're going 13-3 back in the day when there were 16 games, not 7. That's fine. You want to be like that? No. You don't get to be a jerk anymore. Now you don't get to be a jerk.
Oh, good.
Because
you're a loser.
You're a loser. And if you guys can believe this, and I sent you, and you may have this sound, so I don't want to step all over it.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's now to the point where at 1-5, people are wondering audibly, and people who are close and sort of Patriot loyalists are wondering, maybe it's just time for Bill Belichick to step aside.
I know, it's incredible.
Maybe his tenure here is over. And I don't think it should be a maybe. I think it should be an absolute.
What's the name of the former player? The great
Teddy Bruschi.
Teddy Bruschi, who said on ESPN.
Beloved.
Or somewhere.
Yes, as Tommy Curran put it on my show Early Edition yesterday, that is like the Pope denouncing God.
Yeah.
Like Teddy Bruschi is like the consummate patriot.
That's a great point.
He is Bill Belichick's guy. And he said on ESPN, well, on their show on Sunday, he said he thinks he should consider retiring and walking away from football. And then on their morning show, Get Up or whatever it's called, on Monday morning, he talked at length about how Mr. Kraft, that's how he referred to him, Robert Kraft, is going to need to really look hard in the mirror and ask himself, does he want to bring Bill Belichick back? I'm going to be honest, I don't know how you can. Because you can't just look at 1-5 this year. That's not the only issue. This team has been a shell of itself since Tom Brady left. You had no quarterback plan in place, and then you draft Mac Jones and you don't put offensive weapons around him in an NFL, by the way, that is completely driven by offense. All of the penalties that are called favor the quarterback. They favor offensive players, not defensive players. They want high-flying catches, and even though they find Tyreek Hill and give him, excessive taunting flags for it, they want guys to score big touchdowns and grab somebody's, camera and take pictures into the stands because that's what people like. That's what people want. And all Bill Belichick has done in that time is, draft guys like N'Keal Harry, go for Cole Strange. Do you even know, you guys, unless you're like a football fan, do you even know who these guys are? Like, they don't do anything. They don't produce.
So let me ask you a question.
They have a terrible offense.
The mandatory thing that, and by the way, I told you, I really consume sports radio only after a Boston team has gotten crushed, because that's when the fans are at their best. So I'm listening, and everybody feels they need to do the mandatory. Even though he's the greatest coach of all time, it's time. Well, if he's the greatest coach of all time, why can he not win without Tom Brady? And why did he only win when he had Tom Brady? I would argue, I'm sure he's a fine coach, but why do people say that when he can't win? He essentially wins nothing without Brady.
That is a fair point. You look at a lot of the best coaches in the league. Don Shula, of course, comes to mind. Who is the legendary coach? I can picture him in my head.
Landry from Dallas.
Tom Landry, but I'm thinking of the San Francisco, the 49ers.
I have no idea.
Vince Lombardi,
Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh, thank you. Bill Walsh.
Good.
all of these guys, like towards the end, listen, Joe Gibbs down in Washington, like these are guys who, are the top of the list for most games won in the NFL. They slipped towards the end.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, so let's ask an inside story.
I
I know you can't say this on air. If you had to poll all of your colleagues who do what you do for a living at NBC Sports Boston, and the question was simple, are you happy about the fall of the Patriots and Belichick or unhappy? What would they say?
I think most would say unhappy because it stinks to have to cover a crummy team. But I did try to spin a positive on it yesterday. I said to Tom Giles, one of my colleagues, I was like, Tommy, this stinks for right now. Like, we got to talk about this terrible team, and we have to think we're only in week 6. There's 11 weeks. Yeah. There's actually 12 weeks of the football season left because they still have 10 games remaining, plus they have their bye week. Okay, so that math is bad. There's 11 weeks left in the football season. Whatever. There's 11 weeks left, so we have to talk about this crummy team for 11 weeks. I was like, but the offseason is going to be lit. I'm like, because we are going to be able to talk about how they're going to fire Bill Belichick and they're going to hire a new coach and they're going to get a high draft pick and they're going to spend a ton of money in free agency. I'm like, we just got to muddle through like November and December. And if we can get through that, then there's a rainbow on the other side of endless stories to talk about the Patriots. I haven't confirmed this,
and I don't do what Trenny does so well. The rumors that I've heard from reliable sources is the pitch that Belichick is making to Kraft so that he can keep his job. I may not be a good coach anymore, but I can expedite your passport. That's what he said. So I can't confirm that.
That's right.
But there are rumors that
I want to know how Jim Jordan actually does that, because we had an issue once and we reached out to our Congress people. It was not as easy as you think for them to just very quickly get you a passport.
Well, he's a star, obviously. He's a real star.
I thought you just went down to the federal office building and begged.
No,
it can get really the line.
You have to. It's very. I can tell you off air. We had to do this when we took a trip in 2021, and it was very complicated and it was very tenuous. There was
expedited like 3 weeks.
I just pay extra to get expedited, even if I don't need it. I just do it.
Yeah, but you do get it if you pay extra. Don't you?
I think I got mine in like 3 or 4 weeks when I expedited it. It was like an extra $60.
But if you lose it, and you got to go tomorrow.
It's a lot. Yes. Or if I don't know, you're about to take an international trip and your passport's expired and you didn't realize it was expired. You got to go jump through hoops. I don't know. Maybe that's
something else, because this happened to one of my kids. Sometimes you cannot get into countries if your passport is set
6 months.
Within 6 months.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Yeah, you have to renew it like a year in advance. Yeah. It's the best.
Do you see the context? Can you read this from here on my phone? Do you see those initials?
It's dark.
JJ, Jim Jordan. I'm telling you, this is a huge thing. We're going to talk about this all day. We only have a couple of minutes here. I want to get this out of the way because it's so depressing. Delonte West was a player, went to St. Joe's in my hometown, was a guard on a team that was undefeated, which
2004.
for a small school, was it 2004? Yep. I remember it. Played for the Celtics and a bunch of other things. There's one of the most painful stories
very, very
about
sad.
His decline in life, mental health, life, finances. It's the Athletic, right?
Yes, in the Athletic.
Brilliantly. Could you?
You can also find it, by the way, on the New York Times website because the Athletic is owned by the New York Times.
The Athletic is great.
It's a really sad story about this. Delonte West suffers from bipolar disorder. And whether it's been just, I'm assuming it's been not treated properly or sporadically or untreated mental illness. And here's a guy who at one point, was making $12.8 million a year. And the last time anyone saw him in 2022, he was living outside of a 7-Eleven. Many people in the NBA community have tried to help him. He has struggled with severe mental health for over a decade now. He walked away from the NBA because he had such severe mental health issues. I think he had issues and severe anxiety flying on planes. It prohibited him from being able to excel at the sport night in and night out. And this was at a time when, even when he was at St. John's, that
St. Joe's?
St. Joe's. Did I say St. John's?
Yeah,
St. Joe's. Sorry, St. Joe's. When he was at St. Joe's, where, they had sports psychologists on the team, but it was basically for performance, right? Like, you didn't go in and talk to somebody about your bipolar disorder, definitely not back in 2004. And I just wonder if this went untreated for so long that the longer it goes untreated, the more severe it becomes. And he has battled homelessness. He has had, it sounds like, detachment from reality at times, where he goes up to people. I think that there's a story about him in North Carolina or Florida or something, and telling people that he was better than Michael Jordan, and if they would just let him back in the NBA again, a detached reality. He's been in and out of jail. He was arrested for harboring a knife and weapons and guns, and his former coaches and stuff. And Mark Cuban, he played for the Dallas Mavericks for a time. Like, these are people, former coaches and players. Jason Williams, who he knows and plays with, who's a big mental health advocate. They have paid for him to go into, he also suffers from substance abuse. They've paid for him to go into rehab facilities and treatment facilities twice now, and both times it just hasn't stuck. It hasn't worked. And it's really one of the most heartbreaking parts of the story is when Mark Cuban, who I actually think has really tried to do the right thing here.
Almost a billionaire owner of
he is a billionaire.
Dallas
Mavericks. Yeah. He's a billionaire. He's a Shark Tank guy, but he also owns the Dallas Mavericks. And he said it got to a point where the therapist at the rehab center said, this is someone who needs tough love. He has to do it on his own, and he's just not doing it on his own. And they just basically have had to let him go, and they have no idea where he is or how he's doing. It's heartbreaking.
I want to mention, we had on the show yesterday Greg Martin, who was a West Point graduate, 38 years in the military, was a big-time General Petraeus right hand over in Iraq and stuff like that, descended into bipolar disorder, and he talked about how difficult it is. You have to get the right treatment at the right time, and maybe you have to do it over and over and over again. So it's a really cruel disease.
Yeah.
And I hope, for the best.
And I think a lot of mental health, because it really hasn't been in the forefront of medical research until recently, where there's just a bigger push for people to pay attention to it. It's a lot of times trial and error. And if you're struggling with severe mental health, to go through trial and error,
the right cocktail
of drugs. And sometimes the drugs, the side effects can be absolutely they can be as limiting as the disease itself.
Well, Martin, when he was finally diagnosed after being misdiagnosed repeatedly, took him 2 years to get lithium, which is ultimately what allowed to lift him out of this incredible
And sometimes lithium
pain.
works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's brain
very
chemistry.
Tough. Yep, it's very, very tough.
Read the story. It's in The Athletic. It's really something.
Okay, we're talking to Trini Casey from NBC Sports. Going to be right back to talk with Trini some more after this quick pledge break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
So tomorrow is the last day of the fall pledge drive. That would make this the second to last day. So if you've decided you're going to do something to contribute to help support the work that we and our colleagues do here, and as I said, that Jared Bowen and his colleagues are going to do when the Culture Show launches in a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 every single day following BPR. Now's the time to dial that number or go online, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I know I say the same thing all the time. The gifts are great, but really, you're hopefully not given to get a trunk or a cargo organizer for your car, even though it's a great thing. You're giving because you want to support the work that's done here. And if you do it. And if you can afford $10 a month and $120 all at once, you get a bonus. You get this GBH cargo organizer deal. It's only available till 2 o'clock, which makes Marjorie happy because she wants to beat her colleagues in terms of how much we raise.
I do.
So make her happy and get the cargo thing that has the GBH 897 logo. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Now, Jim,
Yep.
Karen in Whitensville thinks you have underestimated the importance of the cargo organizer.
I'm not underestimating.
And she thinks that this would be the perfect solution for where you keep your mother's ashes.
I knew you were going to say this.
In the trunk of your car. You could put them right in there, the little box in the trunk organizer.
Why are you obsessed with that, by the way?
Because I don't know many people that have their mother's ashes in the trunk.
Well, I don't think she minds, if you know what I mean. And okay, fine. If I get the organizer, I probably will do that.
You can fit them right in there.
Okay, fine.
But it is a pretty neat gift. I mean, it's got this. Basically it folds out with these reinforced handles.
Let me show you.
Yeah, show everybody.
Here are the handles.
There they are.
You can keep talking while I'm doing it. Yeah.
Features 2 sections.
See this fold out?
Outer side pocket.
Here it is, right here.
And reinforced handles, which Jim is holding in his hand. Sturdy fabric, Jim, and folds flat for easy storage and can also be used to carry. If you too have your mother's ashes in the back of your car, in the trunk, you can put them right in there.
Oh, Steve Scalise is hiding in this one. No, that's very poor.
The deadline to get the new cargo organizer is when our
that.
show ends at 2 o'clock and won't be available for the rest of the drive.
Yep.
So Jim says we hope you're not going to pay for the cargo organizer, but frankly, if that's all you want and that's all it's going to entice you to pay, then we'll take that too.
You got to care about what we do.
Okay. Well,
and if you get the cargo organizer, it's a bonus.
Okay, it's a bonus.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, here's the number: 888-897-9424, 888-897-9424, or gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're at the library and continuing our conversation with Trenny Casey.
So, some big moves for women in baseball. Tell us.
Whoops.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. This is. There's two big things, and one is sort of a not a big move because it's a head scratcher, and one is amazing. So I'll start. I'll start with the head scratcher first, and then we'll go into the amazing once we end on a positive note. Kim Ng has been the general manager of the Miami Marlins for the last few years. Really worked her way up. She was an assistant GM under Brian Cashman with the Yankees. She worked for the Dodgers, and then she became the first ever female in North American professional sports to be the general manager of a pro team. Unbelievable, right? She took over a Marlins team that had won 67 games. She turned this franchise around. They made the wild card this year. They got the wild card. She made prudent trades at the trade deadline. She signed some really great free agents in the offseason. And then for some odd reason, this was the final year of her contract with a mutual option, which meant the Miami Marlins could pick up her option and she could agree or she could say thanks, no thanks. And they told her that they were going to put someone above her in a president of baseball operations role. And she said, you know what? And good for her. She said, you know what? You keep stripping me of more and more power. Look what I have done. I'm good. I'm walking away. I'm not exercising my side of the option.
So why don't the Red Sox hire her?
So that's where we get. So the Red Sox should absolutely 110% interview Kim Ng.
Do you know this woman?
I have never actually met her. But listen, her resume speaks for herself. She worked her way up in the industry. She took a Marlins team, which is owned by Derek Jeter, but certainly doesn't have the pocketbooks of the Yankees or the Dodgers. Yeah, it doesn't have a pocketbook like that, or like the Red Sox could possibly have. She has big league experience. She has put together teams. She has learned under some of the best and brightest in baseball, guys who have won before. And so, to me, the Red Sox would be silly to not immediately move her to the top of their list. And you know what? She's one of the few people that I think, of interest to the Red Sox who aren't under. John Tomasi pointed this out yesterday, which was a great thing, because this Red Sox open job for president of baseball operations is not very attractive to people. You would think, oh my gosh, I get to run the Red Sox. This is amazing. But the last couple of years, ownership is so fickle. You rarely last very long. Dave Dombrowski lasted 3 years. Chaim Bloom lasted 3 years. Like, who wants to uproot their entire family, come here, put their heart and soul into a team, and then be like, oh, you didn't do exactly what we wanted, so you're out of here. So it's a very tenuous position. But also, they have made it very clear that manager Alex Cora is going to have a lot of say in any personnel moves. And they've also made it pretty clear that they're not willing to move people who are already part of the organization out of the organization. So if Kim Ng decided to come here, she would be the president of baseball operations. She would have the title of the top, management position in the front office. Oh, shoot,
we're in favor of that. We'll get to the other woman next week.
Alyssa Nakin is going to, she's pregnant and she's interviewing for a job as a manager of the Giants.
Trenny Casey, anchor reporter for NBC Sports. Thank you so much.
Donate so I can talk more.
See you later.
And you are listening to Boston Public Radio here on 89.7 GBH. It's 11:53, and it is the next to the last day of our fall fund drive. And this is your opportunity to support your listening with Jim and Marjorie and your Boston Public Radio listening before the drive ends. We hope you won't wait till the end. We hope you'll make that contribution right now. You can give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. I'm Sonia Lee, and I'm joined by Zach Finn.
And right now, we're looking to receive 17 contributions in the next 7 minutes to keep on track in this hour. Please sign up as a sustaining member or make a one-time gift. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424. The money you give now will help us fund the news in the months ahead. gbhnews.org or give us that call, 888-897-9424.
And we've got something pretty cool we're offering just today only, and actually it's only available here in Boston Public Radio for the rest of the day. The deadline's coming up soon. We have our cargo organizer. It's expandable. It fits in your trunk. It's a way to contain your stuff and support GBH all at the same time. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or you can make a one-time gift of $120. Again, it is only available just through BPR, and then it is gone for the rest of the drive. It's been really popular today, and we hope that it's got the GBH logo on there. It's got 2 compartments. It's expandable, so it folds up when you're not using it. Great way, like I said, to store your stuff and support your listening with your GBH listening. You can give online. Check it out there, gbhnews.org, or call 888-897-9424.
Today, we're asking you to join GBH by giving what fits your budget. Your financial commitment to GBH sends a powerful message about the value you get from listening to the variety of programs on GBH. And your contribution today, joined with others, will ensure that we can continue to bring you the NPR and GBH news you trust. Please join with others by participating and giving now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And you got about 5 minutes left in this hour. We're hoping that you can step up and make a contribution in support of your Boston Public Radio listening. This is probably appointment listening to you. Probably your weekday just isn't great unless you are hanging out with Jim and Marjorie and maybe calling in and being a part of the conversation. Well, we're asking you to place a value on that. It is the next to the last day of the fund drive. This may be your last opportunity to support your Boston Public Radio listening. Please give as generously as you can right now. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And milk and eggs all over the trunk, a thing of the past. Support GBH at $10 a month, and we're going to thank you with our new cargo organizer. It's a limited offer, just 2 o'clock today, and then it is gone. It's an expandable trunk organizer. It's great for the car. It features 2 sections. You got the outer side pocket and the reinforced handles. It's made of a very sturdy fabric, folds flat. I mean, it almost disappears. It's just so convenient. It's black, and it's got that nice GBH logo in white. Really pops. So sign up as a sustaining member at $10 a month, or make a one-time gift of $120. But remember, that deadline is coming up here, 2 o'clock. After that, it is gone. So go online, gbhnews.org, or give us that call right now, 888-897-9424.
All right, this is terrific. We are down to 15 contributions, looking for 15 people to give in support of Boston Public Radio right now. Do you lunch with Jim and Marjorie? Do you walk with Jim and Marjorie? Do you hang out at your desk doing mundane, maybe computer work and listen to Jim and Marjorie? They help get you through. Well, this is your opportunity to support your listening on the next to the last day of the drive. 15 contributions here. Now 14 left to go in the next 3 minutes. You can give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Thank you if you're already a sustaining member to GBH. Your monthly contribution has really helped out and continues to do so. Now, we'd appreciate it if you have the means to do a little bit more this year. Increasing your gift by just $3 or $5 a month will help out with the rising cost of keeping the NPR and GBH News on the air in Boston. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And did you mean to give on the first day listening to Boston Public Radio? Maybe you meant to give over the weekend when you had a little bit more time and you just kind of, spaced it out. Well, this is your opportunity. This membership drive is ending tomorrow, but we do need the help and support of everybody who loves this station, and especially Boston Public Radio fans, to really rally here. And so we're asking you not to wait till the last day, but to give right now, especially in these last couple of minutes here before we go back to the show. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And we are down to 13, just 13 contributions to go. Just a couple of minutes here to stay on track in this hour. You just got to get that call started right now. The success of this membership drive depends on all of us joining together. So please help pay for the news by making that contribution right now. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And get the cargo organizer. Again, not much time left. You got a couple minutes left here before we go back to Boston Public Radio. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or a one-time gift of $120. And this is kind of the upgrade to a tote bag. It's a 2-compartment expandable trunk organizer. So you're supporting the station that helps you make sense of the world, and now we're going to help you make sense of your trunk with the cargo organizer. You got a couple minutes left here. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or make that one-time gift of $120 online, gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
Couple of big thank yous to send out this other hour. We have Suzanne out in Westboro, listening to all the amazing hosts and guests make us more informed citizens. Hard to argue with that. GBH is the best. Also hard to argue with that, Suzanne. Appreciate that comment. We have Patricia in Rhode Island, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I love Jim and Marjorie. Again, I have to agree with you there, Patricia. So thank you, Suzanne, Patricia, for stepping up this hour. You know, you too can be like Patricia. You can be like Suzanne, but you got to get that call started right now, 888-897-9424. You can also go online, gbhnews.org.
Oh, I want to extend the love here. We also heard from Daniel and Norton, loving Jim and Marjorie, and also Janice and Cheshire. Thank you so much, Love and Jim and Marjorie. We are down to just 7 now. 7 contributions left to go, and to meet this goal in Boston Public Radio. We got just a few minutes left before we go back. You can give online, gbhnews.org. 7 to go, 888-897-9424.
Every day you hear the difference on GBH. The in-depth and unbiased news, the thoughtful and civil conversations, the stories told in a way that only GBH tells them. It's truly the news that matters. If you've never given before, now is the time to invest in GBH. It's your support that ensures we can cover these issues, chase down the facts, and keep you up to date every single day. Choose a monthly amount. Maybe that's $5, maybe it's $10 a month, and become a new sustaining member of GBH. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
All right, we're down to just five more contributions left to meet this hour's goal. And don't forget, you give now, and you can also get that cargo organizer while you're supporting your Boston Public Radio listening. You can give online. That is gbhnews.org. Thank you for your support.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. And I wanted to mention the Israeli Consul Generals New England will join us tomorrow to discuss the latest out of the Middle East. And on Friday, we're going to be joined here at the library by Lavender Darkangelo. You may know she's one of the finalists in America's Got Talent. She's went down to the very last show. She's going to perform for us, sing for us right here at the library on Friday, and she's a great young lady, and you'll be thrilled to hear her.
And speaking of her art, as we announced earlier in the show, there's a press release out this morning letting people know that a new culture show will premiere here in early November, hosted by our good buddy Jared Bowen, lead produced by our former great producer Chelsea Mers, with a whole bunch of others. The culture show about all the arts, and I cannot be more excited about this thing. 2 to 3, weekly on Fridays in November, 2 to 3 every day following us come December. First, though, we're joined by media maven Sue O'Connell.
Media maven.
She's the co-publisher of Bay Windows and the South End News, co-host of NBC 10's Boston's At Issue every Sunday. Following Meet the Press. Hello, Sue O'Connell.
Good day to you. Good day
to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd love to talk to Sue O'Connell, our media maven, even though the first couple of topics aren't so much fun. Pretty scary picture, shadowy picture of these neo-Nazis outside Maura Healey, the governor's house, at 8:30 at night the other night. What'd you make of it?
Well, I think from obviously it's terrifying, and it's again, I know that you folks at GBH News have done a great job covering the emergence of the Nazi groups and the white supremacist groups here in Massachusetts.
Philip Martin in particular deserves a shout out. He's been brilliant.
So some great work there, and you should Google, if you don't know about this group, you should Google it and read some of the great and watch and listen to the great reporting. The bigger picture, pulling back a little bit, and we went through this with Governor Charlie Baker when environmental activists went into his yard, and I think they handcuffed themselves brought a boat, I think, in front of his house. Mm-hmm. I think unfortunately, in this environment, I think it's time that we start thinking about having an official residence for our governors. I think there are 48 states in the country that have an official residence, and I think it might be time to start having that conversation. Obviously, it's always a hot button issue. We've discussed this a lot of some of my journal friends. If the group protesting the elected official is someone you agree with, you talk about their right to free speech. If the group protesting is a hate group or someone you don't agree with, you think they shouldn't have the right to do that. My mother, who was rarely a hypocrite, was a huge hypocrite on this issue. We used to laugh hysterically about who she got mad at if they were protesting. So in order to keep our elected officials, governors especially, safe, I think it's time that we start thinking about having a protected space for them to live if they choose. Some people don't.
You know, think about the former governor, Jane Swift, how life would have been so different for her
if she could have lived near the workplace.
6-hour commute and 3 kids under 3 if she couldn't have lived right there. Maybe at the Parkman House.
Right.
Up there right next to the State House.
I don't know if you're right about that. I'm not sure she commuted to Western Mass because she couldn't afford a unit in Eastern Mass. I think that's where her husband was, and he didn't want to move, from what I understand. And he had the kids do it, I think. I mean, you wrote about it all the time, so you know better than I.
I don't know if Jane Swift and her husband could have swung a big house on.
Let's call her now.
Can I tell you something?
On the Back Bay.
I am not, depending on how respectful, protests, and I'm probably exactly like your mother, but I'll try to be bigger just for a second.
Right.
I'm okay if people act responsibly. When people like these hate-filled cowards who wear masks at 8:30 at night, if you're so proud of your anti-migrant, racist position, then take your mask off and let everybody see who you are. And to do that, that is really
it is cowardly.
Crossing
it is absolutely
the line.
Cowardly.
And so obviously we need every official to be as protected as possible. But the focus, these neo-Nazi cowards are...
One hopeful thing about that, though, is that the mask wearing.
Oh.
They don't wear their mask because, remember, in Charlottesville, what happened to people? They get fired.
Right.
So it is at least hopeful.
They know there'll be pushback.
That they know that they will pay a price for this. We haven't at least gone that far.
Well, except they're not going to pay a price because they have a mask on their face.
Exactly.
Nobody knows who they
but
are.
If they were to show their face and people could identify them, I would hope professing what they profess, they would lose their jobs.
Now, Marjorie said we start with two bad news stories. I would say the second one is a good news story. A gag order put in place by one particular federal judge of Donald Trump. Now, for those who think this is a First Amendment violation, could you explain what she said he can do still and what he cannot do according to law?
Yeah, to the best of my ability to understand this.
Well,
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but he can continue to, and this would be true of all of us. You can continue to speak, you continue to criticize the process, you can continue to think you're being, express that you're being treated unfairly, you can continue to express
say it's a political
that's a
witch
government
hunt.
witch hunt, it's a government conspiracy. You can say, he can continue to say all those things. What he cannot do is target either on a social media platform or in a public place, the employees and their families and friends of the courthouse, nor can he do things to threaten the judge or threaten the bailiff or threaten anyone in the court.
Or prosecutors or witnesses,
Anybody.
People involved in the trial.
Which is what is true for all of us, right? It's not just a carve-out. So the challenge here, of course, is Donald Trump is Donald Trump, and he's former president, and he's a candidate. But he has, and I think the judge is being very clear about the leeway and the challenges around this. But I keep saying this. If Donald Trump ever ends up spending one day in detention or jail, it's going to be because of contempt of court. Because if you have not ever been in a courthouse or involved in a trial, I was once in court over an unpaid dog license. It's a long story. Long story.
The long arm of the law.
Long story.
What's so long? You either paid or you didn't pay.
Well, my ex was supposed to pay it and didn't pay it, and I kept bringing and then finally I got a warrant that I had to go to Stoughton Court to deal with this. And I was standing in front of the judge, and I had already talked to the prosecution, I guess, around what to do about this. And I put my hand on my hip, and the bailiff came over to me and said, "Take your hand down."
I'm with the bailiff.
Right? And I absolutely took my hand down. I'd been in court before.
Sure.
I was side talking. The bailiff came over and said, "Would you like to be held in contempt of court?" I said, "Nope, you're right. I'll be quiet." So I am clear that if Donald Trump continues to act the way he's acting, he's going to spend a night in jail somewhere. And I know it's going to be a problem of another level for all of us. That is not our fault, but it is not an infringement upon his First Amendment rights to speak that he cannot speak in a way. Plus, the First Amendment, as we all know, is not unfettered. There's a whole bunch of restrictions around what we can and cannot say, and so he's just going to have to abide by that.
You know, I just want to say, we just got a text from somebody saying they
it's about my dog license?
No, they don't remember us condemning the mask-wearing Antifa clowns. You know, I think we got to stop mentioning have you heard of anything Antifa's done, for
Not
4
that I'm
years
aware
or
of.
5? I mean,
I also might add that they were wearing masks during COVID, which also is a difference. I mean, I know that's a difference.
Whoever texted that,
I know that's not why they were wearing it.
You got to get a good new boogeyman, because they're not really around anymore, and they were not at January 6th.
Show your face. How about that? Everybody just show your face.
Yeah. Okay.
So, can we stay on this one more second?
Yeah.
I think the difficult thing for the judge, I don't know this to be true, I'm guessing, was not what were the limits of speech for Trump, but I'm sure she's worried, what do I do when he violates them? And, my fear, and I would like him to be treated like anybody else, as you said, who violates the rules of the court. And if he goes to jail, he probably wins the election by 10 points. I mean, the evidence we have since the first indictments, were the first indictments Mar-a-Lago, or the first indictments were Stormy Daniels, I think.
Stormy Daniels.
Right. Stormy Daniels. But, his numbers go up and up every time.
And they'll raise money to pay the fines.
We just saw the end of the finance period for the campaigns. He's got tons of small donors. He's got more small donors. He's got more money and more small donors than any other Republican candidate. He's just going to keep charging their charge cards every single month with this, $10 or $15, and it's an endless.
But you know what's interesting is it seems that what's his face, Mitt Romney, his new biography of his, is it out yet or is it out any day?
I think it's coming out.
Whatever it is, his urged his fellow Republicans to unite behind anybody but Trump candidate, and it appears that Nikki Haley, former ambassador to the UN, former governor of South Carolina, who is not exactly a moderate, but is far less extreme than people like
is
DeSantis,
an adult that could actually
who suggested that every Palestinian is an anti-Semite. I mean, In any case, that might be a positive development in the grand scheme of
Right,
things.
but
I mean, she's still way behind.
But you know what we're also seeing in states? We're seeing Democrats changing their affiliation from Democrat to Republican. I think 5,000 in New Hampshire have already done it, and I think that means that
5,000 really?
Yeah, Nikki Haley's going to be a surprise to a lot of primaries because I think in some other universe, Hillary Clinton's finishing her second term, and Nikki Haley is actually the leading candidate for Republican. Because you may or may not agree with what she says, but you can actually see her as an adult governing.
Well, the other thing is she's been good in the debates.
In a state like Massachusetts, where the largest number of voters are unenrolled, they're not Republicans or Democrats, you can pick whichever primary you choose. You don't have to change your registration.
Nope, and then you change back when you're done after voting.
If you choose to change back, right. In any case.
Of course, you never know how many votes Mr. Independent Kennedy, the vaccine denier, is going to get.
Did you see Alex Beam's column? I'm not sure what to make of. Seemed to be
Mr.
Whatever.
Contrarian?
Right, maybe that was a
Alex Contrarian
about
Beam.
RFK Jr.'s candidacy as an independent. Let's take a break so we have a little bit more time in the second segment.
Okay, we are talking to our media maven, Sue O'Connor. We're going to keep talking to her after a quick break. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We're at the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Okay, the number again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. This is the next to last day of our fundraiser. After tomorrow, we'll be not telling you these stories about different, how we don't have this very much, and if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have to have commercials, and, how Jim and I gave money years ago before we ever, our tired anecdotes we drag out.
They're not tired anecdotes, they're helpful anecdotes.
They're tired. We need some new ones, let's be honest here. We need some new ones, but I don't have any new ones. But the point is, if you listen to us...
And by the way, don't give any money either. Now that I think about it, that's old, too.
No, we need the money. We need the money.
Sorry,
we need the money because most of the money comes from generous listeners like you.
It does.
And if you enjoy what you're hearing here, we have no paywall. You don't have to get a subscription. You don't have to pay $10 a month or anything like that. You can pay $10 a month once, and you get great gifts. Yeah. Today we have the cargo organizer. So we hope if you haven't given before and you like what you hear, and we have great shows all weekend long. Brian O'Donovan is Celtic Social, which was on for years and years and years. Code Switching during the day. Media Matters, which is a great show about the press. Those shows are on Saturday. They're great shows, and we are on all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and of course every day during the week. It's a lot to sustain. So anyway, even though we do have a bunch of tired old anecdotes here, Jim and I, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Well, your reverse psychology on fundraising is really impressive.
You think so?
To badmouth us and then encourage people. I love that.
Well, I think we need some new material.
Yeah.
We need some new material, okay?
Okay, a couple of the donors. I'm sick of Jim and Marjorie. Oh, no, that's not, but they probably will after this. Robin from Cambridge, news that I can trust and learn from. Suzanne in Westboro, listening to all the amazing hosts and guests makes us feel more informed citizens. GBH is the best. A lot of nice things about me and Marjorie, which we really appreciate. Today's the second to last day. Just do it. Just do it. I'm not tired of any of the anecdotes. I love every single one, and that's why I would give. And in addition to giving, because of all the tired anecdotes, I would consider this cargo thing, which is a brand new deal, which we have not had before. It's a cargo organizer. And if you've seen Marjorie's trunk, you would see the value of...
you know what's not in my trunk?
What?
My mother's ashes.
Okay. This is really... What got into you? What is going on? Okay, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. One more day to go. Don't wait till tomorrow. You'll forget. You get busy. Do it now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are continuing our conversation with media maven Sue O'Connell. So,
Sue, what is going on at Harvard with these mental health influencers?
Yeah, this is a great story, and what I love about it is that TikTok is a really difficult medium to use if you're not young and you started seeing it originally.
Yep.
You know, I tried to do some early TikToks and was rejected because they were overproduced. You know, that I paid too much attention to the things that we would care about on our usual social media and video, so I just quit. So what Harvard has done is they're looking at the TikTok influencers who are successful in telling legitimate and providing legitimate mental health information. Now, if you're on TikTok a lot, it's sort of like watching, you know, in the old days, you'd watch those commercials that would come on in the overnights telling you, you know, you should use this to grow your hair or this to, we talked about the castor oil last week that was on TikTok. But there are
I owned a Flowbee. Do you know what a Flowbee is?
I do know a Flowbee.
Yeah.
I can tell you got your hair cut that way too. The Ginsu knives, the whole thing.
Okay, fine, guys.
So we've always had this information out, but on TikTok it has actually been effectively communicated to mostly young adults. And what the Harvard mental health folks have discovered, that instead of trying to recreate what TikTok is doing, why don't we just get these influencers to come in and work with us to make exceptional, effective, and valid mental health TikTok posts, and that's what they've been doing. And I've been watching some of them I watched before the story was published about it. Again, there's still some very awful stuff on TikTok, but at the same time, I salute Harvard for going forward and finding a way to corral these people and bring them in to have them do the content and help them to make better content that's also more accurate.
So I'm surprised they actually were able to get them all in, because my understanding was they were all at the Taylor Swift film.
Yes.
We talked about this yesterday. What do you make of this incredible phenomenon? I don't know what the final number was.
Yeah, it's huge.
They believed $100 million in ticket sales in the first weekend, which was like one of the highest numbers for the highest concert film, something spectacular.
I'd like just to announce that I'm dating Taylor Swift right now. So I'm hoping that's going to elevate me to the same way that everything that Taylor Swift has anything to do with. Listen, there's a couple of big headlines here about this year in movies. One is that after billions of years of filmmakers ignoring women saved the theater, the movies this year.
That's
between
a very
Barbie
good point.
and Taylor Swift.
Very good point.
Absolutely saved the movie industry by having entertainment geared toward women, toward young women, to get them back into the movie theater. So that's that. Taylor Swift is a genius. I mean, I had tickets, Ruby and I had tickets for Sunday night at 10:30, which we couldn't go to the movie, so I haven't seen the movie yet. We also had 4 tickets to the Taylor Swift concert that was canceled before COVID, and we didn't get our code, so we were part of the Ticketmaster debacle. I was not willing to pay $5,000 a ticket to go see her again. We've only seen her 4 times, so you know. So we are.
Have you seen her 4
times?
Where
yes.
have you seen her?
At Foxborough. We were at. This audience may not know it, but the famous Foxborough Gillette concert. Her first time. Her third night playing when it rained.
That's supposedly one of the most legendary concerts ever.
Right? And it's funny because, you know, with your kids, they don't think you know anything. And as it was raining and she was singing, I said to Ruby, who was like 11 at the time, this is a special moment. She kept making fun of me, and then it turned out to be the most iconic Taylor Swift moment ever. So she is, she has just, I joke about the Taylor Swift cult around my office as well. My poor co-host of At Issue, Corey Smith, who's very serious, you know, doesn't love having to talk about Taylor Swift on the news all the time, but even last week he made a Taylor Swift reference around the vote for the House Speaker. So she has infiltrated everything. I think that she is an exceptional business person, and along with Beyonce, they're both like boosting economies wherever the concerts are going, and she's a hard worker and a good role model, and she saved the movie industry again. So.
And she's registering voters in Tennessee.
She is indeed.
Now,
by the way, just in case you're wondering, since the House convened at noon, they're doing the call of the House, meaning is there a quorum, and 400, almost everybody's there. And relatively soon, I'm guessing, we will have the first vote on having Jim Jordan, the classic passport expediter, be elevated to Speaker of the House, and we'll keep you apprised as the time.
You know, I expedited
along.
some passports too during COVID, so I'm qualified too.
Did you really do that?
Yeah, I helped some folks who were, you know, get connected to get. So I think I should be Speaker.
It's incredible.
Me and Taylor Swift.
So the most important story of the day, clearly, is the dogs that can speak through buttons.
I got a lot to say about this.
Allegedly.
No. There's no allegedly here, Jim.
Okay.
There's no allegedly.
Well, tell the story.
So first of all, do you know the writer of this story, Linda Rodriguez McRobbie, was one of my editors at South End News.
Is that true?
Yeah, she's a South End
great.
News and Bay Windows alum.
In the Boston Globe
And she's in the Boston Globe.
Great,
and she's
good for
writing
her.
about these dogs that are speak. Now, if you're up all night, don't have anything to do, go on to the Insta or the Facebook and find Bunny the Talking Dog. Okay, Bunny the Talking Dog is this dog who lives with another dog, Otter, and their human guardian, I guess. And the woman who owns Bunny developed these touch pads, these buttons that dogs are able to hit in order to communicate with you. Now, many of us know people who have dogs who ring a bell to go out.
Yep.
And many of us know that animal experts thinks that a smart dog will know 300 words, and a smart dog can be about as smart as a human toddler.
But that's not thinking, that's memorizing.
So this woman has gotten these buttons to communicate with Bunny. Linda is writing a little bit more deeper about what this might mean for society, but Bunny the Talking Dog, which I watch endlessly,
I'm sure you do.
hits the button and not only says out, treat, also says, I have a tummy ache, I need my medicine.
You want to hear?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Bunny it's a sheepadoodle, is that
Yep,
what it is?
sheepadoodle.
Okay, sheepadoodle. It's got only 8 million followers on TikTok. And, Sue sort of laid it out. Bunny is taking anxiety medicine before the buttons, but the owner believes the buttons made her condition worse. Here's a clip of Bunny allegedly asking for medicine. Here it is.
Small what, baby? I'm sorry. Why small concern? Sad. You're big sad? Why? Because Dad buy?
Oh, come on.
I'm telling
the biggest pile of BS.
Bunny also wanted to know what night talk was.
That's
Bunny
right.
was dreaming, and Bunny wanted to know what night talk was. Now, Bunny also has Otter, who really doesn't care about any of this.
Who is Otter?
Otter's the other dog.
Oh.
The other dog, Otter, is like, yeah, whatever, just give me a treat. I don't want to talk about dreams. Give me a treat. So what Linda's writing about in the Globe is the other thing that it taught me watching Bunny is how long it takes dogs to process. Right? So when you give your dog a command, if your dog doesn't immediately respond, you think it's ignoring you. But what I learned from Bunny was it takes a little time for my Maud to figure out that I'm saying you have to wait. We're going to go to the dog park tomorrow.
Do me a favor. Raise your right hand and say, I believe what I'm saying.
I believe this on my mother's soul.
God.
I believe on this 100%.
I'm with
you do too?
I do.
So what Linda's saying...
You think these dogs are talking through the damn buttons?
I'm telling you,
I think that
Jim.
they can understand. They had the super dog on 60 Minutes about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was one of those... it was a sheepdog. No, not a sheepdog. It was one of those, I don't know what kind of dog
Doesn't
it was.
matter.
Yeah, you had Pete over Scott Pele's leg, by the way. So
It did not. The dog could go get the orange triangle
Right.
Go
and
ahead,
the
Sue.
red
So the other thing about this too,
rectangle.
there's a bunch of them on TikTok and on Instagram, and the other part too is that some dogs aren't as smart as others.
That's right.
And some are bullies.
This is a sheepadoodle. Poodle. Poodles are very smart.
Linda's point is if you teach them to talk, then what do you do? So there's one dog on TikTok that just stands behind going, treat now, treat now, treat. And then the owner yells at him and he goes, bad daddy, bad daddy, bad daddy.
Is that true?
The dog is like a bully. All it does is
that's
want
pretty
treats.
good.
So what Linda's saying is that, let's just say for the sake of argument, Jim, that dogs have 300 words. They can communicate. They can think. They can problem solve. Pigs are as smart as dogs. Cows may be as smart as dogs. If they can actually speak and communicate with us, should we be eating them?
That's a very good
Should
question.
we be treating them
That
this
is
way?
a very good question.
You know, this is the kind of in-depth window that Linda is, and Linda has done an enormous. She's written a number
Linda
of books.
paying you for this?
No,
What?
I'm just so thrilled that Linda has become so successful.
Was she a good editor?
She was a great editor, and
Okay.
she's written about pain and all sorts of
Okay,
human
enough
issues.
of Linda. Can Maud talk?
Maud, I don't want to give Maud a button. And I'll tell you why.
Why, please?
I have
Maud is Sue's dog.
My dog, yes.
Yeah.
I have enough people in my house telling me what to do. I swear to God. I originally was going to get her a bell to let us, we're on the third floor, to let us to go out. And Ruby said to me, you'll be taking her out all the time. You are so soft. You give in to everyone. And now when I'm home, if Maud's thing is, we have a cart with papers on it. Maud will go up if she wants to go out, and I'm ignoring her, and she just takes the papers and throws them all over the room and looks at me. So if she
What
had
is she
buttons,
saying when she does
she's
that?
saying, hey, you, take me out or I'm going to trash the place.
That's
of course,
right.
I just give right in. So
Tell
if she
me
had
you
buttons,
don't really believe this.
Well, having talked to Cy Montgomery for quite some
Yeah,
time,
what about Cy?
who we have on.
Well, Cy's like an animal whisperer, though. I
yes,
mean, she's
but
not a typical
she's
person.
talked about, you know, chimpanzees in the wild using
Well,
certain...
Coco. What was the name of the Coco? Right, yeah.
Bobo.
Yeah, they're using certain leaves
language.
and plants to deal with their skin rashes or whatever, figuring these things out, building little things. We had the parrot last week that was stolen, and the parrot, when it saw the police officer, started screeching its name so the police officer would know.
Bunny can also lie, which is also another
What do you mean?
thing. So the owner had an interaction with her where the bunny was upset and wanted to go out. There was a stranger outside. So she said, no, it's just the people next door. Don't bark at them again. And Bunny said, I won't bark. And, of course, went right out and Bunny, of course, barked at the people and then came up wagging her tail like, I told you, I lied to you.
Do you have any time left to prepare for any of your shows?
No, I'm busy watching Bunny the Talking Dog.
By the way, the next thing she's going to tell us is Lauren Boebert can talk. I mean, this is just not credible.
If you give them little buttons, they
give
can.
her some buttons, yeah.
Well, we have a disagreement about this, and I think we're going to get to the bottom of this up next.
We are. You have anything else you want to say before you go?
No.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Treat, exactly. How is Maud, by the way?
Maud is recovered great. Maud had surgery 2
weeks
weeks ago at the Great Angel at the MSPCA.
That is the Great Angel. It's totally true.
She had a bump, no cancer, so now I'm just busy heavily medicating her so she doesn't bust her stitches. So,
oh, really?
Well, she's just very active. She's an active dog.
She is.
Active dog.
All right.
Okay.
Media Maven
Nice
Sue
to see you.
O'Connell.
Say hi to everybody.
Thank you very much.
I will.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see That's
We
Sue
have been
O'Connell.
speaking with our media maven, Sue O'Connell. She's co-publisher of Bay Windows and South End
Yes.
News, co-host of
Oh, it's a
NBC
seal
10
talking
Boston
now. That's great.
At Issue every Sunday at 11:30, right after Meet the Press. Up next, we're going to open the lines. We usually don't do this at the end of the show, but today John King's at the end of the show. So today, a little early, we're going to open the lines to ask you about having conversations with our dogs and other furry friends. Can they really kind of speak our language through buttons or through pictures? That's next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
By the way, when I'm wrong, I admit I'm wrong. I'm just reading the comments from people who've been kind enough to donate. Bunny just donated and said, love Jim and Marjorie. So obviously I was wrong in my Bunny, thank you for the contribution. And if you want to be like Bunny and want this fabulous, what's this thing called again? Cargo organizer. You put it in your trunk or something and the stuff doesn't slip around. No more broken eggs, like if you go to the supermarket, that kind of thing. $10 a month, $120 all at once, and you get it. It disappears at 2 o'clock, which is an hour and a half from now. So do it now by calling 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. We're rounding the bend. Tomorrow is the bend. Tomorrow's the last day of the fall pledge drive. I hope if you're listening to us, you say to yourself, well, I really like what I hear, whether it's this show or Arun's or Jared's soon-to-be-created culture show starting first week of November, morning edition. You obviously like something or you wouldn't be listening. And we sort of feel, if you can afford it, you have an obligation to contribute in some fashion and become part of this. It's easy to do, and we'd really love you to do it now at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
So Carol from Leeds, Jim, says we crack her up on a routine basis.
Well,
that makes me very happy.
Very nice, thank you.
Jane from Westport says we're entertaining and informative, and she learns a lot, so that's very good. And Mary from Kittery says she wants to thank us for helping her get through the pandemic and the political pandemonium. And that is true. It is sort of therapeutic to talk about
for us
the mess. Too. Yeah, the mess we're in with the politics and all that sort of thing. So we do really appreciate people listening to us. We appreciate that people want to listen to the station, which is on, as I say, 24/7. And it's a lot of people doing a lot of work over a sustained day after day after day. So if you want to contribute, again, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Boston Public Radio, Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. The Israeli Consul General to New England will join us tomorrow to discuss, obviously, the nightmare in the Middle East. Lavender Darkangelo, the wonderful Lavender Darkangelo, America's Got Talent finalist, will perform for us here at the library on Friday for live music. She won't only perform, we're going to talk about her disability advocacy, and she's just spectacular. And as we said, another announcement that's made this morning is the Culture Show, led by Jared Bowen and sort of guided, and then some, by our former producer Chelsea Mers. The hour-long program, 2 to 3, starts on Fridays in November, 5 days a week come the first week of December, following Boston Public Radio from 2 to 3. But for now, if you're a pet owner, we just talked to Sue about this, you probably stared into your cat or dog's eyes and wondered, what the hell are they thinking?
Exactly.
Maybe they're acting strangely and you wish you could just ask them what's wrong and get an answer. Well, some people are testing out a theory that animals have much richer inner lives, which Marjorie and Sue believe, than we generally acknowledge, can actually learn to communicate with words using buttons. Take Bunny. Bunny is the person, is the sheepadoodle that Sue talked about incessantly, whose owner has set up an elaborate floor button system so that the dog can communicate.
No, you want to go poop.
Well, the good news is I didn't understand one word the dog said. I did understand what the owner said. I know you want to go poop. Perhaps the most relatable thing about Bunny, who many have claimed is now fully sentient, is that she is on anti-anxiety pills to help her grapple with the oppressive weight of self-awareness. But I want to know, do you buy this? Can our pets really talk in words? And if they can, what does that mean for our ethical duties to them? For example, Sue said, how do you eat an animal, whether it's a dog, well, we don't eat cats, or a cow or a pig, if they actually can talk? And do you really want to know what they're thinking anyway? Apparently Marjorie does. The number is 877-301-8970. So explain briefly, if you can, why do you think that this is legit and they can really speak in human language?
They can't talk.
Well, I don't mean talk through buttons.
But they can, through the buttons. I mean, you teach dogs incredible amounts of tricks. Lots of dogs, Sue was talking about that bell that you ring when you want to go outside. Lots of owners do that. My kid has that. Her
like
dog
a reflex
rings
thing.
The bell. No, it figures out you ring the bell, then you get to go outside.
Right. Or whatever they do.
And I don't think it's so crazy to think that if you have a certain button that you push to give them water, then that they'll figure out that you can, that's the button to push when you have water or you want food or you want a toy.
Or I'm not feeling good, that sound we played before.
I mean,
the dog is going to hit a button saying, I'm not feeling happy today.
That's the question. Can we move on to expressing your feelings? And I do think if you look at a dog, you want to know, sometimes dogs look at you in a way that they almost look like they're pleading with you, and you think, is the dog sick? Is the dog not feeling well? What's wrong? Is it just telling me he loves me madly? I mean, what is the dog thinking? So I think
what is the dog thinking? I got to go pee. Can you take me out? By the way, why don't you read the text from Josh from Waltham on the screen there, if you would.
My dog talks, but all he ever says is, Jim is the a-hole. Very rude.
That's a button that that dog is pressing.
You know,
correct.
This story talks about this Coco. Where's the Coco?
Coco's the ape, or the whatever they're called.
Yeah, where's the Coco story? The anecdote about Coco. Coco can do all these things. Apes are very close to. This is the gorilla. Uses sign language to communicate with her handler, and Coco seemed to be able to express grief, love, novel ideas, and complex emotional and intellectual
You haven't
reasoning.
answered my question.
What?
Do you believe, like these stories say, that a dog can press a button saying, I'm not happy today. I don't feel really well today.
I don't know. I don't know if a dog can tell you I need my anxiety medicine
Exactly.
because I am a manic depressive.
So obviously
but I do
a dog
think,
can hit a button saying, I want food. Dog can obviously hit a button after some training to say I have to go out and pee. I mean, obviously.
Well, this woman has expanded beyond water, food, toy to go to things like backyard, front yard, to differentiate where the dog wants to go, park or field. And then she's also added conceptual words like busy or stranger or friend or visit or even, Jim, emotional states such as frustrated or happy.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Frustrated. Let's speak to that, and then we'll take some calls.
I want to know.
Can it identify that it's frustrated?
Yes.
You're doing this to aggravate me.
Well, I have no
know.
idea, but I think it's a very fascinating concept. I mean, I think a lot of us would like to know the inner lives of dogs, and especially when your dog gets older or your dog is exhibiting weird behavior, you want to know
if it's not
if
well
the dog
or not.
is in pain. And you can't always tell if the dog is in pain. And I would like to know that there was a pain button the dog could push.
My rear right paw is killing me.
Yes,
Is that
and
what
I
it's
have
going
to
say?
take the dog to the vet and get them some pain medication. Let's go to Paul and Worcester. What do you think, Paul?
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Marcia and Jim. I love this topic. I have Pepper the Wonder Dog, as you know.
Oh, right,
That's
of course.
right.
Yeah, and she's a great dog, and I've had 2 other dogs for decades for dogs, and they're great. They're smart, they're intelligent, they can tell you what they're thinking and all that kind of thing. But if you got to put your dog on anti-anxiety medicine, then you really need to chill out yourself.
One of my kids' dogs is on Prozac.
Hold on.
I'm fine
it's
with
huge.
that.
Prozac
Yeah,
is
it's
huge. We have a lot of anxious dogs, Paul. I don't know why, but we do.
Well, mostly because I can figure out what my dog wants because she's pretty limited in the things she wants, and mostly it's treats. But having a dog is like having a roommate that eats your food, rolls in your poop, and eats your poop, and steals your stuff, and chews on your furniture. I mean, they're dogs. I mean, a smart dog is a smart dog, but teaching it, and I'm sure I could train my dog to press all these buttons to do all these things, but I'd rather just hang out with her in the backyard and throw a ball to her. It's a lot more it's a lot chiller than that.
I think that's an appropriate response to a dog ownership. I know we're not supposed to say ownership anymore either. I don't know what the right word is. Guardianship or something. Paul, thanks for the call.
Partner.
Appreciate it.
You're the dog's partner.
Whatever it is, right.
Yeah. I think we learn a lot from dogs. I mean, dogs, unconditional love. They're not judging. They don't care if you're rich or poor, sick or not
What's
sick.
it got to do with the topic at hand?
Well, it's got to do with that I think that we underestimate animals' capabilities. I mean, Cy tells us every week about these unbelievable
because
things.
she is different.
About rabbits going to the movies. They're the Taylor Swift
Cy's
show.
ability to cross species lines is one of the most wonderful things we do in the show. She is a different kind of human being.
Well, okay, but that
speaks to her more
because
than
she has expectations of these animals.
Maybe she
When she
does.
would go to the New England Aquarium, that octopus in the New England Aquarium knew her voice.
That is correct.
And would stick its little, whatever you call them, their arms out there and put those little stickers
Suction cups.
all over her arm. I don't know
Whatever
if
they're
I
called.
like that, but she thought
We gotta take
that
a break.
was great. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're talking...
You got to tell me during the break if you really believe this. I can't
do.
tell. You
I
want to
do.
believe it or you do believe it?
Both.
You really do?
Well,
Did Harry
Jim.
the P, best dog from C to C, ever talk to you or ever convey anything other than I'm hungry and I got to poop?
That's why I feel as though I let him down. That I didn't give him the opportunity to tell me what was going on in his inner life, Jim. He had an inner life, and I wanted to know it, and I didn't. Anyway,
Okay.
We're talking about talking dogs, not really talking dogs. Dogs pressing buttons to convey their wants or even their emotions. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. So listen to this. We get these comments lots of times from people who contribute, and we're very grateful for them to contributing. Listen to this, Jim. This is from Elizabeth in Bedford. I think Jim Browdy is really funny. He keeps a smile on my face. There you go.
Do you know who that person is?
Who?
It's a pit bull in New Bedford. Press the 18 buttons and convey that.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And then we
Woof.
have a friend in Milford, New Hampshire, who wants me to win. That's why they're contributing during the 11 to 2 hour. They've already done that. Thank you very much, because believe me, people notice who raises the most money, and I want to be the ones raising the most money.
Read Donna from
Very
Cambridge. That's an important one that we should be
It is.
saying rather than she having to do it.
So impressed.
No, not that part.
with the guests we bring to the show on a regular basis, the governor, the attorney general,
the mayor,
and so many others who answer questions we care about. That is a big deal,
huge.
actually, that we have for a long time been able to get the mayor, the governor, the chief of police, most recently, the commissioner, I should say, in Boston, police commissioner in Boston. He's come on. Hope he comes on more times. I mean, people have a chance to call in. We can't reach everybody, obviously, but they have a chance to talk to people.
You know what people say to me regularly? I'm sure you hear it too.
What do they say?
Even if I didn't call or couldn't get through because the lines were full, the fact that the governor, for example, or the mayor makes herself available for me to call her means a lot. And that's what your money supports. So if you believe in that and you support that and you like it, today's the day to go to 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. And again, if you give $10 or $120 all at once, you get this fabulous GBH cargo, what are you laughing at? Cargo organizer. And if you're not into that, you give whatever you can. What are you laughing about?
A text I'll tell you, it's about animals. So
okay, fine. So that's the deal. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, we're live at the library. We're talking about whether dogs can talk. And I don't mean talk, but through buttons convey their feelings, their desires, their needs, etc. Sue O'Connell totally believes it. I think Marjorie wants to believe it. I don't want to speak for her, but I think that's what she's conveying. And I do not believe it, except that they can hit a button to say they got to go to the bathroom or they want to eat. I mean, that's pretty obvious kind of thing.
Well, here's a texter who wants to know why Jim Browdy thinks humans are the only smart animals. Hasn't he ever talked to Cy Montgomery? I am sure there is a dog out there who could expedite a passport. And I think that texter is absolutely right. And I guess was there a talking dog on the Ed Sullivan Show? I don't know about that, but somebody says that there was. And the really smart dog that was on 60 Minutes was the Border Collie. You know, I don't mean to offend anybody who's got a lab. Labs are kind of not that with it. I mean, labs are not that smart, but there are certain dogs that are really... No, poodles are really smart.
They are?
Border Collies are really smart.
Okay.
There are certain dogs that are really smart, and certain dogs are kind of dim-witted.
Mm-hmm. Same with people.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Donna says dogs can talk. When I come home and I ask my dog how his day was, he says, ruff, ruff, ruff.
That is, who is that person?
That's Donna.
That is pathetic, Donna. Thank you, but pathetic. 877-301-8970. You want to take caller 2 and see what they think?
Oh, here's a great question.
Apparently not.
Could Secretariat understand our favorite audio clip?
That's probably right.
And that, of course, is Secretariat.
Well, by the way,
moving
like a tremendous machine.
There we go. That is my favorite audio
clip. You also,
clip.
Mr. Ed. Remember Mr. Ed?
Mr. Ed, what you do?
Wilbur, open the door. I did that for Jay Farrow, and he thought it was horrible.
It is horrible, but I love to hear it. Let's go to Greg and Truro. Hi, Greg.
It's actually pretty accurate. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Marjorie and Jim. Hi, long-time listener.
Thank you.
First-time caller.
We love that.
Here's what I think about the little device where they can touch different words. I don't think it's that they understand the word. I think they push the button that says backyard, and then they hear the speaker say backyard. So they hear that sound, not that they understand the actual word. And then then they go out and they get a treat. So if you did that enough times with the dog for all these different buttons, they're going to understand that pushing this button, because they can understand spatial stuff, means that they'll get a treat, or they'll go potty, or they'll do any number of things.
But that's like memory. That's not like understanding or speaking, isn't it? Or
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have a dog who does this, Greg, or what? What's the deal?
No, we have a little 8-pound Shih Tzu named Ava who she's pretty smart, but I don't think she's that smart.
Okay. Greg, love Truro, by the way. Thanks for the call.
That whales talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
So if they talk to each other, they're saying something.
Yeah, well, they're saying something.
Yeah, and we don't know what there is.
Yeah.
We can't speak whale talk. We can't interpret it yet.
That's true.
But they're saying something, so that means that they do have a language they communicate in. And a texter doesn't sign, but says, I have taught my dog the exact same things with buttons. She's an Australian Shepherd and very intelligent. That's right, they're very...
Wait, she has a dog who hits a button to say what they want?
That's right.
You know, by the way, let me just say, get back to Greg from Truro. I buy into the fact that they can memorize this button means I get food, means I mean, it's like a memory kind of thing. You still haven't answered my question. These true believers like Sue O'Connell think they can express how they feel.
That's right.
You are at least dubious.
They can say sad. They can say happy.
No, the button can say sad or happy.
Well, what are they doing when they're wagging their tail? They're showing you with a physical reaction that they're
But it's
happy,
a reflex reaction. It's not a
how do you know
thought
it's a
thing.
reflex
It's not
reaction?
saying, "Oh, there's Jim. I'm going to wag my tail."
Of course it is.
No,
They're
it's
happy to
not.
see you.
They see you, and the thing just starts gone.
You don't think they have anything, their brain has anything to do with making the tail wag?
I don't.
I think it's their brain, Jim.
not.
Here's Pat from Sharon. Listen to this.
What's that?
Many years ago, as a commercial fisherman, I freed a dolphin that was tangled in rope. Before swimming away, it splashed its tail
I've heard those
3
stories.
times.
Well, by the way,
To
dolphins
me,
are supposedly like the
that
smart.
was a thank you.
Is a dolphin a fish? What is a dolphin?
I don't know.
A whale?
I don't know.
No, I think it's a whale. I think it's a whale, isn't it? What is
It's a
it?
mammal.
Thank you. Somebody said something.
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Okay. What is the point?
The point is that dolphins are very smart.
Okay, so
but
they're
so
smart, so-
are certain dogs.
Yeah.
And so are whales.
Okay.
And we're learning that. You know what else is pretty smart?
No, I don't.
A pig. A
Yeah,
pig.
okay.
That's why it's ruined my
By the way, she
life
just had a
with-
BLT for lunch.
I know, I did.
I love the fact.
It's terrible.
So how do you feel about that?
You have to tell everybody that.
No, and by
I'm
the
trying
way,
to stay
she
away from
opened the
bacon.
sandwich from the Newsfeed Cafe, and you know what it said? Don't eat me. It talked to you. It's a little late in life to be doing it.
Thomas
It was
from,
like The Fly.
Thomas from Quincy.
Don't eat me.
Thank
Help.
you. Thank you. Thank you for calling, Thomas.
Eat the avocado instead.
Hey, guys.
Sorry, Thomas. I was performing here. Thank you. What's up, Thomas?
no
What's your deal? What are you bringing to the table here, so to speak?
I think I got something to support your point, Jim.
Oh. Thank you.
I know. For once. There was a horse. I don't know if you guys have heard about the horse that they thought it could count. Or like do simple mathematics.
With its hoof.
They would give the horse they would say horse. I don't know. It had a name. They didn't say horse, but it would do. They'd be like, do like 7 plus 5, and it would like stomp its hoof the amount of times to count up to 12.
There you go.
And
so everybody was like, "Wow, this is crazy! This smart horse." But eventually, like enough people started digging into it, and they found out that the horse wasn't really doing math. It was watching the reactions of the people who were performing the. Giving it the math problem.
I buy that.
So it was reading their body language to say, "Oh, now I'm going to stop stomping my foot. It wasn't really doing math." So I just think anytime we think about animal intelligence, we need to take
Dig
the
a little
human
deeper.
observer into the equation.
That's brilliant. What Clever
That's why I
Hans,
got it.
Zoe, is that the name of the horse? The horse's name was Clever Hans.
Clever
H-A-N-S.
Hans.
Thank you, Zoe. And Thomas, thank you for sharing that story with us. We appreciate it.
Here's Dan from Boston.
What are you
My
saying?
wife and I have dogs, so they can't talk back. If I wanted back talk, I would have had kids. That's a good one.
That is almost as horrible as that other joke about
I thought that was a riot.
that? Thank
That
you
was the
very
caller.
much.
I think Len liked it. Thank you
Len,
very
were you
much.
the one who just laughed?
Yes,
That
I
is
was.
really sad. Go ahead. What are you calling about? What's the deal with you?
Well, all right. Well, first of all, I'd like my dog to tell me when I need my anxiety medication.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
What else, Len?
All right. Here's something else. My
Yeah.
dog Yoda, when he wants a treat, he gets up on his hind legs and takes his paws and starts banging some keys on the piano.
There
and he
you
does
go.
This every time he wants a treat.
I believe it. I totally believe that. That's like I believe that. It's like ringing a bell, whatever. That's pretty good. Do you have a video of that or something, or what, Len?
Actually, I do.
Can you
I do
send
have
it to us?
I'll try to. How would I send it?
bpr@wgbh.org, and next time we're streaming here, we will
I like that. You see?
post it. What's the dog's name again?
Yoda.
Yoda. Well, I should have remembered that. Yoda. Len, thank you. I totally believe that story. We're looking forward to seeing the video.
And you know
Thank
what else? When you see service dogs
Yeah.
or seeing eye dogs,
Yeah.
I mean, those dogs can do incredible things.
Yeah. But
They-
the question is, can they think?
They see the crosswalk. They
I
see if
understand
it's
that.
a walk or it's not a walk. How do they
Yeah.
figure that out, Jim?
I don't know. I really don't know.
They figure that out.
I don't know.
I told you about my mother's friend with the seeing eye dog.
No.
She would ski behind the dog down the
That
slope.
is incredible.
Yeah, the dog had a bell around its neck, and she
Yeah.
followed the bell, and she skied down the thing.
Okay, are we done with this?
I guess we are. Yes,
Okay,
we are.
fine.
I think that the verdict is in.
What is the verdict?
They can talk.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Coming up.
There, by the way, is a really good story in the Globe by that woman Linda somebody who used to be an editor at what was the name of Sue's operation? South End News.
Bay Windows.
Or Bay Windows. One of the two.
And South End News. They
Whatever.
were combined together.
Okay, so she was a great editor. Now she's a great journalist at the Boston Globe. That's it.
Yeah, Ron from Westport points out that human psychiatrists can barely understand what human beings are talking about. So that's a very good point. That's a good point, too. Anyway, but I'm going to believe it anyway.
If you have any more horrible jokes, text them to Marjorie, okay?
I thought they were kind of clever.
They were not that funny.
Okay.
Len loved them, though, so it's
Dr.
okay.
Catherine Gergen Barnett of Boston Medical Center joins us next. She's going to tell us about how do you talk to your kids about the tragic situations going on in Israel and Gaza and Ukraine. Plus, younger women's rising rates of breast cancer. We're going to get Catherine Gergen Barnett's input on all this up next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
You are listening to Boston Public Radio here on 89.7 GBH. I'm Sonia Lee. I'm here with Elizabeth Lavoie, and it is the next to the last day of our fall fund drive. We are asking you to please just take a couple moments, place a value on your Boston Public Radio listening by giving right now. Time is running out. During this membership drive, you can give online, gbhnews.org, or call 888-897-9424.
The goal right now is to receive 15 contributions in the next 5 minutes. That goal is so important because it will help pay for your future GBH listening. We suggest giving what you can, whether that's $100 or maybe $15 a month on the Sustainer plan. That's 15 more people and just 5 minutes left. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And you heard Jim and Marjorie talking about it. We've got the brand new cargo organizer. It's a limited offer just for today. You have just a little over an hour left to pick it up, and then it is gone for the rest of the membership drive. It's great. It's like the updated tote bag of the 21st century. It's got 2 compartments. It expands. It folds up. It holds your groceries. It keeps your junk from flying all over the trunk. $10 a month as a sustaining member, or you can make that one-time gift of $120. Pick up the car organizer. But again, you only have a little over an hour left. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
When you become a new member of GBH, you're working with others towards a common goal, and that is to keep the news and information flowing on the radio. A gift of $5 a month will not only keep you informed and entertained, it will also ensure that GBH remains on the radio and available to everyone in our community. All that with just $5 a month. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Jenna in Shrewsbury says BPR is an everyday gift. Thank you, Jenna. And thanks to Jenna, we're down to just 12 more contributions in these last few minutes here, Boston Public Radio. It's been a little bit slow this hour, so we do need to pick up the pace. The drive ends tomorrow. Your gift is essential. Nowhere else do you hear programs like Boston Public Radio on public radio except for GBH. We're asking you to step up and rally here. Boston Public Radio fans, 12 contributions in these last few minutes. You can give online, gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
And a reminder today, when you support GBH at $10 a month or make that one-time gift of $120, we will thank you with the GBH Cargo Organizer. It features a white GBH logo against black sturdy fabric, so it's perfect for storing your groceries or other equipment. Show your support and organize your car all at the same time, but it's going away shortly, so $10 a month or make a one-time gift of $120 at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And yes, it is. We are looking for Boston Public Radio fans to rally Ludwig and Stratham. Thank you so much for your contribution. We heard from a fan in Brookline, and now we're just down to we got 9 more contributions, just 9 more people to give in these last few minutes before we get back to Boston Public Radio. And this is important listening. You probably rely on Jim and Marjorie each weekday to keep you informed, up to date, and also entertained. A little belly laugh here and there. It's why you listen. We hope you'll give. gbhnews.org, 888-897-9424.
It's the next
to the last day, and I think, Liz, you want to do one more time on that organizer.
Oh, yeah. Today, when you support GBH at $10 a month, we'll thank you with that cargo organizer. The GBH logo, show your support at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And I want to send a thank you out to Michelle and Revere Big fan of Jim and Marjorie, and they've become they're her co-workers. They even read my text sometimes. That's great. Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate it. We hope you'll join with Michelle. We're down to just now 6 more contributions. We're picking up the pace here. 6 more contributions is what we're looking for to wrap up this hour of Boston Public Radio. We got an hour left. That's all the time you have left to support BPR and get your cargo organizer. gbhnews.org, and thank you for your support.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library. The House vote on the speakership has started. There are just a few votes in now. We'll probably know in about 10 minutes if on the first ballot Jordan is able to win the speakership. He needs 217 votes. He can only lose 4 Republicans out of the whole total. We'll let you know how it goes. And while we are waiting, we're talking to Dr. Katherine Gergen-Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center and Clinical Associate Professor at BU Medical School. Doctor, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Wonderful being with both of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great to talk to you again, Doctor. So, you know, we had this issue with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia earlier, a couple of years back, where people were seeing these gruesome images on television. Now we have this other tragedy unfolding with Gaza and Israel. So what's the advice about dealing with these things with your children? How do you talk to them about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been pretty inundated, and thinking about how we're all kind of reacting is one piece, but then how do we talk to people who are young around us, whether it's your children or people you love? One of the pieces of advice that I would have as a starting point is really not to shy away from it. So kids of all ages, whether they're on social media themselves or they're just, in kind of conversations where they're overhearing people speaking, they know something's going on. They're hearing words that they don't understand. Kids are incredibly, as we know, receptive and intuitive when it comes to emotional experiences. So first of all, just address it. Make sure that you're not avoiding it. But start with really simple, open-ended questions. So obviously, the questions are different based on how old the children are, but start with, for the youngest child, what are you hearing? What have you heard? What do you understand?
We said young. Do you mean like 3 or 4?
Literally,
okay.
As young as 3 and 4, because even they can understand that something is happening. We know that the visuals are everywhere. We know that people are talking about it everywhere. I think, again, recognizing our own emotional experience and the way it may be impacting the way we are at home. So starting then with an open-ended question about what they're hearing and really taking the lead. I would also say that to be really kind of aware yourself before you go into conversation, if possible, having some of the information. You don't need to go right into deep socio-political, historical moments, but kids are going to want to understand, where is Gaza? Where is Israel? What's going on? So to have some of those basic broad brushstrokes, I think, is really important. The most important thing is making sure that kids feel safe. So you can say, my job is to make sure you feel safe. How can I be doing that? What is going to make you feel safe? Or even saying, you are safe here, even taking out a map, because sometimes kids, especially since there's so much conversation about children and this horrendous violence that's happening right now, don't recognize that Israel and Gaza, obviously it's impacting all of us, but this is not right next door to us. So
can I interrupt you there? The problem with that, I agree with that totally, and you're the expert. If your parents are watching the news, in addition to those horrible things happening in faraway places, the next thing they see is a picture of a 6-year-old little Muslim boy from Illinois who was murdered by the landlord for the sin of being a little Muslim boy. And that is close to home. What do you do? Who is that kid on the screen, Mom? And
Yeah.
why is he on the screen?
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, I think that is such a good question. And I will say that probably everybody who is here today live and everybody who's listening has been directly impacted some way personally. So understanding that, first of all, absolutely, there are implications. How do you focus on these things like shared humanity, the pieces of empathy, connection, and also understanding that we cannot be using global words like Palestinians and Israelis, right? Making it really particular about things that are happening. So we don't encourage more fear and more trauma in terms of thinking that all people from one place are bad or all people from another place are bad, that I will always be feeling unsafe. And again, we know there are scary, awful things that happen in the world all around us. What about gun violence that's happening 2 blocks away,
That's
right?
true.
Again, we say my job is to keep you safe, and I'm going to do my job.
The most important advice, though, at the beginning there is don't avoid it.
Please
and don't
do not.
assume they don't know. Don't hold your
Absolutely.
breath and ignore it in the hopes that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I guess I thought, and maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
that when my kids were little, my kids are in their 20s and 30s now, so it's different because we didn't have the internet, easy access and stuff. But I don't know why you would have the news on in your kitchen or your living room or anywhere, or be watching it on your computer when your kids are
How about
there.
when the kid goes on Twitter? Or the
Yeah,
kid
I
is
don't think
scrolling through
I
the
hope
internet.
a 3-year-old
Okay,
is
a
not going to be.
6-year-old.
I mean, then I think it's more difficult because they're going to be talking about this in the schoolyard or someplace else. But I don't know. I just don't think even. It seems to me that's almost like adults only stuff.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I'm not encouraging people to turn on their television so that their kids get exposed. In fact, I think that turning off your television so that you can have that conversation with your children and you can help control the way that the conversation happens. But then, too, social media, we all know that there was massive things that were being let out on social media last week. And as a parent and as a physician, I also was, really talking to my kids about these are the things that might be coming out with social media. If you see something that says sensitive only, do not click on that, right? Because I don't want those
So
images
does that make it
on my
more
head.
likely that your kid clicks on it or less likely that he
Well,
clicks?
I mean,
No, I'm
my
serious.
children always listen to me.
That's right.
But look, I think the point is that there's that button there to make it more kind of alluring, right? And I think the way you can talk about it is saying you will have images in your mind that you don't want there, and that you will always wish you didn't see.
Okay, so let me ask you another thing. In a world
Yeah.
where teachers are being attacked in every single direction for just doing their jobs for the most part, including in places like Massachusetts, by the way, should a teacher teacher probably spends more time with that kid during the day than the mother or father does in most circumstances. Does the teacher do the same thing? Assume the kid knows about it? So bring it up in your class?
Yeah, I mean, I think that schools, and I certainly know my children's schools and schools around Massachusetts are doing a really good job in thinking about how they have these conversations. They're sending out resources to parents saying, these are how you can have your conversations. Again, for a school just to ignore it, I think is actually not helping families either. I think doing it in a way that, again, is not pitting one side against the other, not going into deep, geopolitical, historical information, letting families decide how they give more of that information. But schools are doing it, and they're doing it in, hand in hand with social work and behavioral health. So I really think that schools are a really important place to have these conversations.
Talking to Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett.
Just one last thing before we leave this. One of the things that I've heard and I've done actually is when you're talking about these things, and not even Israel and Gaza, but a shooting or a fire or some terrible thing that they may know about in school, just that these things are very rare. They happen, but the chances are they're never going to happen here because X, Y, Z. The odds are on our side, kind of thing. Even though you don't know if it could happen to you, it just seems to me that assuring them that it's very unlikely matters.
I think that kids are a little bit more savvy than that now. I think that to offer any sort of statistics or say it's not likely is not as helpful as saying, we're here to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And if bad things do happen, we're also going to be keeping you safe.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think to offer false promises, God willing, they're not
Yeah.
false, but
school shootings is what I'm thinking of too.
Is not helpful.
Yeah.
And actually, it's okay to leave our kids exposed to the hard things.
Yeah.
But to help them walk through it with resources and support.
Talking to Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett.
Okay, disturbing stories about women getting lung cancer at younger ages and higher rates than men. What do we think is going on here?
So, switching topics, I feel like we went from animals talking with their noses to talking about trauma and lung cancer. But no, so glad these are really important topics. So, first of all, just to start with the basics. So, lung cancer is the deadliest cancer that we have, right? Because it's quite prevalent. And the signs and symptoms can be overlooked for a long time. And so by the time it's detected, it can be quite advanced. There's now, the good news is in the United States, rates of lung cancer are coming down. So overall, they're coming down. But there's now been meta-analysis or sort of grouped kind of review, understanding that for some reason, what we're seeing is that women between the ages of 35 and 54 have a higher rates of lung cancer than men. So there are some ideas about why this might be happening, and obviously this is a place for further study. One of the kind of analysis is saying, what's happening for women in terms of screening? So we currently recommend that women who have been smokers, anybody who's been a smoker for a pack a day for 20 years, we call that 20-pack years, should get screened. We do a low-dose CAT scan for your lungs between the ages of 50 and 74. We've actually seen data that women are offered that test 30% less than men. And women of color are offered that test even less. So that's one piece. So obviously that's a huge thing that we need to all be focusing on and thinking about public health messaging, access to care. We've talked about this a lot. Another piece is looking at a very common risk factor that we all know is smoking. So women also are 31% less likely to quit smoking than men.
Really?
Isn't that interesting? And do you want to know why?
Weight.
It's weight.
Yeah.
Is that really true?
It is weight. It's fear of weight gain. And so, wow, do we have to get rid of that stigma?
Well, so that explains the differential, doesn't it? Or
That's a huge part of it. But then we're also saying, well, do women metabolize smoke differently? Do they metabolize, pollution differently? I personally think it's interesting that it's women who are of child-rearing age mostly. So I think there's a lot that goes into that. Actually, for a lot of the things we've talking about is like the most important thing to do at first is to actually name what's happening in terms of the differential rates, and then we say why. And then we go and cover those gaps. So I think just the fact that we're understanding this now is a really important thing for all of us, but we have to be doing a lot more work to understand it and address it.
So when you say address it or cover the gap, how do you address it other than say don't smoke?
Well, you talk to doctors about screening. So, ensuring, first of all, that every woman is offered screening. When a woman comes in with chest pain or a cough, or a pain that radiates, oftentimes they leave the emergency room with a script for Ativan.
Those are lung cancer symptoms?
Yeah, those can be, exactly. So that can be a set of lung cancer. So also re-educating physicians to be thinking about what are the most common symptoms and how are you missing them? And how may you be brushing women off more than men in terms of some of those symptoms?
And it also says in this story, as you mentioned before, if you're between 50 and 80, you should get a CAT scan every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
if you smoke for 20 years, a pack a day.
And even if you quit, if it was less than 15 years ago, you need to get it. So, and I have patients who have, nodules that I'm following, and I have one patient who I just diagnosed with lung cancer, a woman of color, specifically because we were tracking her CT scans. So thank goodness it was early.
And you know what else I wonder? There wasn't much research done on marijuana now that it's becoming legal in more and more states. Smoking marijuana can't be very good for your lungs either.
It's terrible for your lungs.
Yeah.
But you know what, baby? You don't smoke
There's
marijuana.
There's not a lot of evidence on marijuana. I'm gonna pass on that question. But any kind of particulate in your lung obviously is not going to be great for your lungs.
But a serious
marijuana
user is not smoking as much marijuana
well, no.
as the typical
that's
cigarette
the upside
smoker
of the
is,
marijuana
right?
today. You have one hit and you're high, so you don't have
I
to
have
be
no
smoking.
comment.
No, I'm serious. I mean, that is the difference.
You're not smoking as much marijuana as you are cigarettes. I mean, if you were smoking 20 entire joints a day, you'd be on the floor.
And a lot of people used to roll marijuana with nicotine, et cetera, but that's happening less now that there's more access to it.
Can we talk about another area where there are health inequities, particularly along racial lines? We talked to Michael Curry, head of the League of Community Health Centers, and also one of the leaders of that Health Equity Compact.
For sure.
Doing terrific work at the State House with us all the time. On the dementia front, which is much more front and center, dementia in general, the risks, well, explain to us, how do the risks break down for dementia? How many people in America have dementia?
Well, right now we have about 5 million people, and it's estimated by 2050 we're going to have 10 million
because
people.
The population is getting older. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the health disparities, and what does one do about those?
So there are, a set of risk factors that we, routinely think about, screen for, some of which are sort of obvious in terms of risk factors for all-cause mortality or things that will, likely make you sick, things like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, also looking at the way that your cholesterol is, so your healthy cholesterol, your good cholesterol, called your HDL. If that's low, it puts you at higher risk. But interestingly, other risks for dementia are hearing loss, right? And so that's not something we talk about a lot. And poor sleep, alcohol. So those are things that we know, and inactivity, which goes with a lot of those things. So those are the things we know put you at higher risk. The thing that you're pointing out, and that Michael Curry, and who I adore and think he's doing great work, has been doing really, how do we kind of do a deeper dive on this? Again, recognizing that not every population may have the same risk factors. We all have the same risk factors, but do they all play out the same way? So there was just an article that came out just last week that looked at 900,000 people with dementia. They broke it up into categories of different race, age, et cetera. And what they found when they matched people, so they said, okay, these people all have the same level of income, so they matched them for all the other things except for just race. And they found that Black patients were most impacted by high blood pressure. In other words, high blood pressure had like 1.5 times more impact on a Black patient in terms of their risk of getting dementia than a white patient.
Why?
So again, why? We don't understand it. Could it be that their vasculature, could it be that they're not treated as much for blood pressure? It has nothing to do with, race being any different in the body. I'm just saying it's talking about access, right? Talking about disparities in care. Could it be, the medications, we know that certain hypertension medicines are better for different races. I know that a certain blood pressure medicine that I give to my Black patients is gonna work better. That is just part of the care that we give. Interestingly, South Asian patients had certain risk factors, and blood pressure was 2 times of a greater risk.
Wow.
So these are surprising results, but what it means is that if you can start getting this data, you can be much better about counseling folks about their actual risk, and again, working on the public health factors and saying, this matters. We have to be talking to people about their blood pressure across the board, but in order to do health equity work, all the more so.
Yeah, before you go,
Yeah.
what'd you say the number is 6 million going to 10 million in the next?
5 to 10, yeah, doubling.
We are totally unable, and we know from some
Yeah.
friends we both have who've been trying to get care and placements for a parent or a loved one who's suffering
yes.
from dementia, and how totally impossible it is.
Yep.
If we're not prepared for the 5 or 6 million,
Yeah.
what are we doing to be prepared for the 10 million?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a massive public health crisis that is on the horizon that we're not talking about enough. First of all, we don't have enough places. We don't have enough, wraparound facilities. We don't have enough geriatricians. We don't have enough neurologists. So part of what we need to be doing now is prepping ourselves and obviously working on the risk factors, right? And it doesn't have to be 10 million. We are on track for 10 million. But if we can be doing a lot of this public health work that we're talking about and mitigating people's risks now, we can actually prevent some new cases of dementia for people.
If you had to say, before you go, if
Yeah.
you had I know this is a grand statement, and obviously there's nuance to it.
Yeah.
The answer is, we didn't learn much from the public health crisis of the last few years in terms of funding. I don't mean people who are
Yeah.
in the business like you, but
Yeah.
public officials who've got to appropriate the money
Yeah.
to address what we know is coming or is like. We didn't learn much from this, did we? Or did we?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think to your point, I think it accelerated the people, who maybe have some of the decision-making power to learn more. I think I'm always a glass half full person. I do think that Atul Gawande had a really good piece on Costa Rica and the way that they integrate public health into the medical health, and it's one continuous stream of delivery.
Oh.
And so those are the kind of bright spots to be looking for. It's not happening here necessarily. We see bright spots in our community, but we don't necessarily see bright spots in terms of overall funding of public health. But actually, if you look across the globe, there's some great models. And so my hope is that people who are, writing the legislation and putting the money behind all of this are taking the time to look at the bright spots.
Doctor, it's good to see you.
Always
Thank
good
you
to
so
see
much.
you.
I
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you
your
very,
time.
very
Dr.
much.
Catherine
Thank you.
Gergen-Barnett.
We've been speaking, Catherine Gergen-Barnett is Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center and Clinical Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School. It went by so fast we didn't get to everything, but next time. Coming up, we're going to talk about something else, Jim. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about
Exactly what we just talked to
talking
Catherine
to your
about. yes.
children about what's going on
And what
in the
are you
world
doing?
today, the violence in Israel and Gaza. As Jim mentioned, that little 6-year-old Muslim boy that was stabbed to death because he was a Muslim. How are you dealing with your kids and violence in the world? The number is 877-301-8970. 877-301-8970. You are listening to 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio.
By the way, the voting is happening. In about 10 minutes, I think we'll be able to tell you whether or not a guy who essentially supported an insurrection is the next Speaker of the House. They're about 60% through the voting. In the interim, we are hoping that when you hear people like Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, or as the texter said before, when the governor, when the attorney general, when the mayor of Boston is on, you think there's a lot of value in what you hear here at GBH. A little entertainment from time to time, too. And if you do, we hope you'll dial 888-897-9424 or go to gbhnews.org and make a contribution of whatever amount you feel good about that you can afford, and to help us keep doing what we're doing. And we announced, I keep saying we announced, we repeated from a press release put out by GBH earlier, a new show that is happening only because of people like you.
It's going to be great.
Jared Bowen's going to be hosting something called The Culture Show, starting weekly on Fridays in early November, daily from 2 to 3 right after us in December, on all of the arts and culture that you care about. working with people like Callie and Edgar B. Herrick III and James Bennett with the brilliant Chelsea Mers as producer. It's only happening because you are generous enough to contribute to the station. So the stuff you have, I think, is pretty great. And the thing you're going to have come a few weeks from now is pretty wonderful as well. And if you want to support it, you go to 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
So I was joking before about the cargo organizer and Jim putting his mother's ashes that he has in the trunk in the cargo organizer.
Actually.
Well, it really is kind of a neat idea for the back of your car, especially if you are challenged to keep things neat. And it's only available until 2 o'clock, which is a little more than a half hour away. It's this expandable trunk organizer. It's got 2 sections, big side pockets and big reinforced handles. And it's got the GBH logo on it, of course, in white. But the stuff is you can put everything in the back of your car in kind of a neat way and separate it. You can use it for ashes, you can use it for groceries, you can use it for your papers you've got for work, your books you've got for work, all that, your computer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just kind of a nice way to make your back of your car really neat. It's only available until 2 o'clock. It's not going to be available after that. So that's available for $10 a month if you want to become a Sustainer member, which helps our budgeter, people who do the budgets, plan for the coming year. But we are grateful for anybody that gives to GBH, even if it's a little bit, because we know for lots of people times are very tough. But this is a free service, but it's not free to produce it all, to make all the work. And so we depend on generous listeners to help us out. The number again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. The Israeli Consul General of New England will join us tomorrow to discuss the nightmare in the Middle East. Lavender Darkangelo, the wonderful Lavender Darkangelo from America's Got Talent. Well, she's from a local, from our neighbor just a few miles away, is going to perform here at the library on Friday for Live Music Friday, just like she did on the finale of America's Got Talent. She is brilliant and a spectacular person. Her 2 dads will join us. But right now, we're going to ask you about something we just discussed with Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett. How do you talk to young people, your young people, if you haven't, about the state of the world today? The violence in Israel and Gaza is difficult enough to talk about among adults, but what about your kids, parents, teachers, anyone with a little one in their life? How are you dealing with this thing? And it's not just physical violence, it's verbal violence, like grotesquely irresponsible presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, who in his latest called every, and I repeat, every Palestinian in Gaza an anti-Semite. Not much nuance there. Violence in our neighborhoods. What do you say to your kids? Catherine Gergen-Barnett's position was, do not avoid it. Do not assume they don't know things that need addressing. Be affirmative. Be proactive, a word I can't stand. That was not her word, that's mine. Do something, and we want to know, are you doing something? And if you are, what are you doing? 877-301-8970. If your kids are asking you questions too, I'm dying to hear what kind of questions are they hearing? Are they picking up information when they see you watching TV or sitting in the car listening to NPR, or they're reading social media? How are they getting information, and what are you doing to address their concerns and fears? 877-301-8970.
Well, think about it. In my lifetime raising kids, the big thing was 9/11, right? We had to explain that because that was endless on television all that day, and they heard about it in school. Lots of these kids, if they were very, very little. So that was a crisis because I think it scared the hell out of lots of little kids watching.
Well, especially unlike what's happening in the Middle East.
Because it was close.
It's right down the street.
And because the planes went out of Boston, at least 2 of them did go out of Boston, so there were a lot of people here that were dramatically impacted, and sometimes you knew people who lost people in 9/11. So that was a really tough thing. But I think the most important thing that the doctor said was when she said that your job as a parent is to assure your kids that you're going to keep them safe. Mommy and daddy and daddy, whoever it is, we're going to keep you safe. That's our job, and we're going to do our job and keep you safe. Because that seems to me to be the biggest thing. I guess I'm being unrealistic in trying to think anymore that you can just shut things off when your kids are around. But frankly, I don't understand why anybody would have the news on when their kids are around.
But were you of the opinion before Catherine Gergen-Barnett joined us? I thought you said to me when we were talking about preparation for this that you would not affirmatively raise this and sort of cross your fingers,
Well, again,
hoping
my
if the kid
children
doesn't... No, I know they're grown. If your
older.
kids were young, I'm talking about if they were young and this was happening now, you would cross your fingers and hope they hadn't heard, and if they don't raise something, you wouldn't raise something with them. Is that
I
fair?
probably would wait till they asked. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know what I'd do either.
I don't know, because I was a firm believer that when my children were little, there was no news in my house, even though that was my business, in the news business. There were no 6 o'clock news, no cable news, no nothing.
Yeah, but my kids were 9 and 7, and they're almost the exact same age as yours. When 9/11 happened, didn't matter where they had the news
No, that
on.
didn't matter.
That's all
Well,
that
they heard
anybody
about that
was talking
in
and thinking
school.
about.
Remember? Schools,
Yeah.
a lot of schools
This
closed.
is a pretty big deal,
It's a
this
pretty big
nightmare in
deal.
the Middle East. It may not be happening in lower Manhattan and Pennsylvania and Washington. It is a huge story. And as I say, when there's a local angle, not only is suffering of Palestinians and Jews who have relatives there who have suffered in horrible ways, when you see the little picture of the little 6-year-old Muslim boy who was killed because he was a little Muslim boy by the landlord out there in Illinois, it's pretty hard for the kid to escape, Margaret.
You know, someone just texted, and we should have thought of this. Kids today grow up doing active shooter drills in their schools.
That's a very good point.
Violence is their reality. I thank you for texting us that, because that is so true. It is a reality. You know, you can't say anymore that the school shootings really happen, because tragically, they're rare, but they're not that rare. 877-301-897 is the number.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's close, though. It's very close.
877-301-8970.
That is the
or
number.
70 is the number if you want to call or text and tell us what you're doing with your children involving this tragedy is unfolding on television.
By the way, the reason this voting is taking, and if you're sitting saying you want to hear the results of the speaker vote, it's one of those things where everybody has got to rise and say who they're voting for. It's not one of those electronic voting things. So it's taken a long time. There are 320 votes cast, which means only another 100 votes to go. And we'll let you know as soon as we know if Jim Jordan is the next Speaker of the House
How
of
many does
Representatives.
Jordan need to win?
217.
217.
Let's go to Kira in Concord. You're first on Boston Public Radio. Thank you much for calling. Hi, Kira. Kira. Okay.
Is Kira there? I think Kira went away from her phone.
I hear something. We'll put you on hold, Kira, and we'll get back to you in a couple of seconds. 877-301-8970.
Yeah, several people are talking about the active shooter drills in their kids' schools, which is very unnerving to lots of people. But that's one of the emphasis, at least from this one texter, says that the teacher's going to say, I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to keep you safe. And my God, the heroics we've seen from teachers in those active shooter drills, throwing themselves over the bodies.
Yeah, but a lot of
kids.
those heroic stories are not ones that are going to make a kid feel particularly safe. They're going to feel, I hope, love and warmth towards their incredibly brave teacher. But a lot of those outcomes were not so spectacular. You know?
No, you think of those kids that were, and especially in Uvalde, that were in the room for like 45 minutes to an hour waiting for somebody to come in.
Yeah, Kira in Concord, we're going to try you one more time. Welcome back. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
Fine, thanks.
Nice segments as usual.
Thank you.
Appreciate, and there's so much I appreciate in life of all kinds. And I think that's really what it comes to, too, is that, pardon me, I have my radio up. And I just am saying that I really agree with Dr. Catherine Gordon Barnett and Marjorie's insight too, that Jim and Marjorie, that children are very perceptive, and when they, let's see, where I was going.
Do you have young kids, Kira?
No, I don't have any young
Okay.
kids, but I have a lot of children around me,
Okay.
and I've also been a nanny, and I also sit a lot for.
So what do you
children.
think is the right advice to parents and teachers and
I think the whole
others?
thing is when a child does ask, and children do, and they wonder what's going on and things of that kind, that and the schools are doing fantastic jobs, I think, and being a tutor at one point in time, and I hope to be again. I really think that just to say, okay, we're here in the USA, we're here over across the waters, and show, like you all were saying about the geography, and have a map so that they can see where it is, and also just if a child asks, what can we do, or someone asks, what can we do? You can just have, like we did with Ukraine or with Afghanistan, the flag. And,
my concern, Kira, we got it, and thank you for your call. I don't think, Catherine Gerger-Burnett knows far more about this than I ever will. I don't think it's just fear of being unsafe. I also think it's the pain a kid feels when they see other people in pain. I don't think most people, when they've seen the images of what's happening in Ukraine perpetrated by Putin, think it's going to come to get them. But I remember as a kid, it was horrible when I saw other people in pain. How do you address? I just don't know how you address that. You know what the most important thing is? I think beyond not avoiding the topic that Catherine mentioned a minute ago, is start by asking your kid what they know.
Yeah.
So you're addressing their body of knowledge as opposed to assuming.
What have you heard?
What have you heard,
Yeah.
and what are you concerned about? We got to take a break, Marjorie.
Okay, we're going to take a break, but we'll be right back after this quick pledge break. We're talking to you about how you explain to your children, whether they're little kids, middle school kids, high school kids, how you explain to your children what's going on right now in Israel and Gaza. You're listening to 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio.
Okay, only one more day in the fall pledge drive, today and tomorrow. And today there's a pretty nice gift. Actually, it's a brand new one. I like it a lot. It's this GBH cargo organizer for the trunk or back of your car. So the groceries, the eggs don't break, your stuff doesn't fly all around. It's $10 a month or $120 all at once. It's only available for another 23 minutes till 2 o'clock, and then it disappears if you want it, or if you want to make a contribution any amount, a one-time contribution, a sustaining contribution of $5 a month, whatever you feel good about and can afford. You call 888-897-9424 or go online to gbhnews.org.
So we mentioned that this cargo organizer ends at 2 o'clock, and it does. We only have about 20 minutes left in our show. So if you've been hesitating and waiting, it is, our colleague said at the beginning, introducing this pledge stopgap thing, that 720 hours a year of listening to this show. That's a lot of hours.
Is that what we're on?
Well, 15 hours a week. You're the mathematician.
Yeah,
15 hours a week.
Yeah.
How many is that a month?
How many is it? A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it's a lot, and we don't have paywalls. We don't ask you for money preemptively. You can turn this on. You can listen to us live on your computer or your iPad, wherever you listen to stuff. Or you can turn on the old-fashioned way, the radio in your car, and listen to us or radio anywhere. And so but we do need support because our show is on 720 hours a year, and everybody else is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a lot to produce. So if you've been listening to us for free all this time, maybe you can kick in some money and help out what it costs to put this all together. The number again is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. The cargo organizer is available, but only until 2 o'clock if you're interested in that for $10 a month. Maybe you are in a position to give more than that, or maybe you're in a position to give not very much, but we appreciate people listening, and we appreciate whatever you can give. Again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
And if you're as excited as we are about the new culture show, culture, arts, all that sort of thing that Jared is going to be at the helm of starting 2 weeks from now on Fridays, and then 5 days a week come December. It's only happening because they're generous people who are contributing to the station. It costs a lot of money to pull this off, and it's donations like the one Margie and I are asking you for that make that possible. So please give whatever you can, and maybe even give a little bit more at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library. The vote for a speaker is probably about 5 minutes away from conclusion. CNN is reporting that Jordan does not appear to have the votes for the speakership, but just like Kevin McCarthy before him, there may be a second ballot. We don't know. What we're talking about is what we started talking about with Dr. Catherine Gergen Barnett from BMC a little bit earlier. How do you talk to young people about the state of the world today in general, specifically what's happening in the Middle East and in Ukraine?
A texter is saying, I am telling my children, don't worry, Jim Jordan's got it. Got this.
Yeah, he's got it all.
And then listen to this. This was a note from Fred Rogers. Remember what he used to say?
Nope.
Look for the helpers. And that's a very good piece of advice.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means look for the people that are going to help you, whether it's the firefighters or the teachers or the people that are going to help you or the police officers. And you know what else people have mentioned, which I think is really true, to do something. Like if you're worried about people in Israel or people in Gaza, do something. Like remember people making masks at the beginning of the pandemic? People did that to help.
I mean, include your kids in that effort?
Yeah,
Is that what
or
you mean?
make things for Ukraine, put together, like work with organizations that are doing those things. They're either, not everybody's sending money, some people are sending, supplies in some way, or food. If you're worried about homelessness, you can contribute to the food shelter or that kind of thing.
Let's go to Paul in Roslindale. Hey, Paul.
Hi. Hi, Jim and Marjorie.
Hi.
Always love hearing you guys. This topic is something that we have discussed in our family. I've got my partner and I have two kids in high school, a junior and a freshman. And we started, Jim, with what you suggested. We asked them if they'd heard, what they'd heard. And my partner has actually been to Palestine, so has some small personal time there spent. And we just talked to them about what it means to live for generations under occupation, not being allowed to move freely. We talked to them what it might mean to live for deep history in your ancestry with a feeling of persecution from people all around the world, and what it might do to people living with that history today in a small, constrained place under two regimes that aren't really thinking quite so clearly about the good of their own people, but are thinking about their political position and their standing in the world.
How'd your kids take it?
Viewed from outside.
How'd your kids handle the information?
Generally, they really take this stuff. I think when we make it clear that we're open in the conversation about something very serious, they listen, and it takes them a little bit to ask questions, but they do eventually.
Paul, were you and your partner? I'm sorry. Were you and your partner nervous about having this conversation? I remember around 9/11. I don't remember exactly what was said, but I do know I was pretty anxious about it because I wasn't sure I could do it well. Were you confident?
Well, we were confident. We've talked. We try to keep an open dialogue with them about all sorts of things in the news. We want to know that they're paying attention.
That's great.
It's really important to us that they're paying attention. Whatever their viewpoints end up being, we can't decide, but we need to know that they're paying attention because we have such an incredible place of privilege living in this place and in this time. We're so lucky not to have to deal with this stuff on our own doorstep for 99% of our lives.
Yeah.
But we need to know that it's shaping their world. And our youngest, a freshman, went to school, had discussions, had a lot of, there's support groups and, teachers and superintendents sending messages about this. And they came back to our home a few days later, and our youngest one, they thanked us. They thanked my partner in particular.
That's pretty great.
Because the things that we had been talking about and that she had been talking about to them were ringing in their ears as they heard a discussion in school about it. And it made them think more openly and compassionately and critically about what they were hearing from the other people.
Sounds like you and your partner are pretty grown up and that your kids are pretty together too. Paul, thanks for sharing your experience with us. We really appreciate that.
Carrie Holton said, when Osama bin Laden was killed, my young daughter asked if the guy who killed him would get in trouble. She was 5 years old and she heard it in the news. And Carrie says she thinks she said the government would protect him or her. And a couple of people who remember the Mr. Rogers line, look for the helpers, just point out that was meant to convey that there's a lot of really good people in the world, and the good people, there are more good people than bad people, and the good people are going to keep you safe. Similar to what Catherine Gergen Barnett said about parents assuring their children that they would keep them safe. Somebody else is saying that they that they listen to the Up First podcast over breakfast every morning. And that's a 10-minute. It's a great podcast. It's an NPR podcast, short little bite-sized news updates to let us what's going on in the world. And it's short enough, this texter says, we have time to talk about it after it ends before we go to school. And I guess last week, this texter says their daughter's 7th grade class got distressed about a potential threat to Catholic schools, and she called what was to see what was going on. It was helpful to be able to tie it back to the upfront, brief, bite-sized news segment in the morning.
By the way, the first round of voting appears to be over, and at least in round one, Jim Jordan does not have the votes. He's 17 short, it appears, from being elected speaker. We got to take a break.
This is going to be a repeat of McCarthy.
Maybe
Don't
it
you
is.
think
We'll
it's going
see
to
in
be
a few
over and
minutes.
over again? But let's hope he doesn't.
He's pretty distant from getting the 217. We'll see. We got to take a break.
Okay, we are talking about how you're dealing with the violence in Israel and Gaza, and how you're explaining this to your children. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
So this is it. 2 o'clock, the cargo thing for the back here, the GBH cargo organizer disappears. Much more importantly, tomorrow, the whole fall fundraising drive disappears. So if you care about what you hear here on GBH, either our show or any of the other wonderful shows, or the show to be, the new culture show with Jared Bowen et al., make a contribution. Whatever you can afford, as our colleague just said. If you can afford $5 once, that is much appreciated. If you can afford $500 a month, that's great too. Somewhere in between, for 10 a month and 120 all at once, you get today's gift, which is this really nice, brand new GBH cargo organizer for the back of your car so the crap doesn't go all over the place, the eggs don't break, that sort of thing. But whether you're into that or not, you're hopefully into the station, and you've learned from us, as we learned, 70% of our budget comes from listener support. You're one of those people. We really urge you to do what you can and do it now at 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock, and the cargo organizer ends at 2 o'clock. As Jim has said, I've said it many times too. So if you're interested in that, it is kind of cool for your backseat of your car, the trunk of your car to put your stuff in. So it's not like all over the place in the trunk or all over the place in the backseat of the car. It's black. It's got the GBH logo in white, and that's what you get as a sustaining member for $10 a month. This is the next to the last day of our pledges. So if you've been hesitating, it's today and tomorrow, and then we are done for quite some time. We will not be talking about sustaining membership or little membership or any kind of membership for quite some time. So if you have been kind of listening to us for free for quite some time, maybe it's time you kicked in a little bit, because these operations are quite expensive to put together, and 70% of our money comes from the generosity of listeners like you guys, small contributions from listeners like you guys. We have some big foundations that donate too, thank goodness.
And wealthy individuals who give a lot of money too.
Exactly, but most of the money comes from small gifts from generous listeners. So 888-897-9424 is the number. gbhnews.org is the website. We have the cargo organizer just until 2 o'clock, and as I always say, I like to get credit between 11 and 2. And one of the texters actually said they were texting now, they were donating now. So
as a favor of you.
So Marjorie could win.
That's a very sweet kind of thing.
I very much appreciate that. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
You know, I don't know if there's any... Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie again. We're at the library. We just have a couple of minutes left. I don't know if there's any perfect advice, but the more we talk to people, read the texts, listen to Catherine Geiger and Barnett, you do have to talk to your kids. You can't... I mean, I have the same tendency you do. I'm an avoider of difficult situations. I would tend to avoid... It's in the air. It's everywhere. They know something. And the first question is the right question, as she suggested. Ask your kid calmly what they know and address what they know. And whatever fears or concerns flow from that. I mean, I can't imagine anything worse than being a young kid and having these fears and anxiety and worry about fellow human beings and having nobody I love and support wrapping their arms around me trying to help me, you know, and because you think you're trying to help them by shutting up, I think it's quite clear that you have an obligation as a parent or a teacher to talk to them.
And you know what's sad today? That teachers feel so constrained to talk about anything at all that's controversial. And, there's a lot of emotion around this Israel-Gaza tragic situation that they might feel inhibited by some kind of consequences by speaking about it now in this particular climate. But anyway,
before we end, can I just read one quick note from the New York Times? A total of 20 Republicans voted against Jordan on the first vote, the exact same number who opposed McCarthy on his first of 15 ballots. But, says the New York Times, it's a very different group of 20 lawmakers. It remains to be seen what Jordan can do to win them over, meaning they appear to be much more hardcore anti-Jordan, at least now,
God,
than
let's hope so.
McCarthy's people were.
I mean, that would just be too much to bear.
So stay tuned to NPR. You'll hear the results as the day goes ahead.
Okay, you've been listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We very much appreciate people that donated today. It means a lot to us, and people that sent the nice notes. We appreciate the people that came down to the Boston Public Library as well. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by the Consul General of Israel to New England, the Israeli Consul General to New England, that is. He's going to talk about, obviously, the Israel-Hamas war. We're going to be joined as well by our national security expert, Juliet Kayyem, Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young, and Ryan Landry of the Gold Dust Orphans for some fun and frivolity with the very entertaining Ryan Landry.
He's got a Christmas play coming up, too.
Yeah, the Christmas play, and apparently we have a part, Jim. I'm very excited. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Our engineer is John Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. We want to thank our BPL team, Angelica Marrero, Steve Baracci, Maddie Geyer, and Sandra Lopez-Burke. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope you can tune in tomorrow. Meanwhile, have a great day.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The GBH Fall Membership Drive ends tomorrow, and if you have yet to give, please make your contribution right now. Giving now will help pay for your Boston Public Radio listening in the months ahead, and you'll help wrap up our fund drive tomorrow. You can go online at gbhnews.org or call us at 888-897-9424. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Cohen, and I'm joined by Melissa Jones.
Support GBH at $10 a month right now, and we can thank you with our new cargo organizer. This is a limited offer. It is only good until 2 o'clock, so you have just a few more minutes to take advantage of this. As Jim and Marjorie have been sharing with you, it's super handy. It'll keep your trunk organized. I love it because my eggs aren't going to get broken. There's not going to be groceries everywhere. It's going to be amazing. And I'll be reminded of my support every time I use it because the GBH logo is on it. All you got to do is sign up right now as a sustaining member at $10 a month or make a one-time gift of $120 and you'll get that cargo organizer. You have to do this before 2 o'clock because after that it is gone. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And right now we're looking to receive 15 contributions in about the next 7 minutes. That'll help us stay on track for this hour. Please consider signing up as a sustaining member, or if you prefer, make a one-time gift. Either way you go, though, the money that you give now will help fund the news and Jim and Marjorie in the months ahead. You can show your support by going online securely over at gbhnews.org or give us a call at 888-897-9424.
GBH is committed to bringing you the fact-based journalism you expect and deserve. But we can only do that when you support this important service. Becoming a new member is the best way to do that. It's easy, and your gift now will pay for all the news and programs you want to hear. It's that simple. Please participate by giving now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And again, your chance to pick up our GBH Cargo Organizer. Your time is running out, just about inside of 7 minutes left to go. A great value to support GBH at at only $10 a month on our Sustainer plan, or if you prefer a one-time gift of $120. We've been having a lot of fun with this organizer, a very practical gift you can give to yourself or to someone else. Keep all your groceries, some sporting balls and bats and gloves in good order in the back seat of your car so you don't have things rolling around. It's a great way to support GBH and show your support to the world with this cargo organizer. Limited time, though, goes away in about 6 minutes. Again, $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120. 888-897-9424. We got a picture of it for if you want to check it out. Look for the donate button over at gbhnews.org.
You know, we have a lot of listeners who have signed up to GBH on our monthly Sustainer plan. That's when you give monthly to GBH and by setting up a recurring charge to your bank account or your credit card. $10 per month, $15 per month. You know, $10 a month, you get that cargo organizer Mark was just talking about. Or choose some other number that's right for you. By giving monthly, you help GBH keep the information flowing. It's easy to set up. You can change it at any time. The Sustaining membership is a preferred and awesome way to give. I do it. I encourage you to join me with that. You can do that right now at gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And BPR fans, we're asking for a little rally here to help us round out this hour nice and strong. Now down to 7 contributions left to go this hour. 7 contributions. Maybe you've been spending time at the library with Jim and Marjorie. Take a couple of minutes right now and show your support for all the entertainment and information that you get from Jim and Marjorie, Boston Public Radio, each and every day. It's driven by listener support. Your support, if you're a BPR fan, take those couple of minutes now. Again, 7 contributions to go in about the next 5 minutes. 888-897-9424, online at gbhnews.org.
We're getting so many great comments from people who are giving right now. Thank you so much. And the consensus is everybody loves Jim and Marjorie, but particularly our friend in reading. Thank you for your contribution. And they say, I appreciate the quality of the guests, mayor, governor, etc., and especially the quality of the hosts, Egan and Browdy. You feel the same? Now's a great way to show your support by making these programs possible here with your contribution. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Yeah, we're here just asking you to take a few minutes right now, make your contribution to strengthen GBH and the news, the information, and culture that enriches your thinking, decision-making, conversations, and your daily life. You know, whatever the program, the topic, or what you've learned from it, it's your support that helps to create great radio for the public good. Driven by listener support, your support right now, 888-897-9424, or go online, gbhnews.org.
We have about 2 more minutes for you to also participate in contributing right now and receiving this fantastic cargo organizer for the back of your car. $10 a month or $120 right now. You can have that organizer. It's going to keep everything nice and neat in the back of your car. There's 2 compartments, inner pockets, outer pockets. It'll hold groceries, sports equipment. You get the idea. You've been wanting one. I've been wanting one. I'm signing up to get one right now. So join me with that. Let's do that before 2 o'clock. Sustaining members, $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120. After 2 o'clock, it's gone. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
You know, tomorrow is the last day of our membership drive, and thanks to everyone who has already given. If you have yet to support GBH, though, you are running out of time. Please make it known that programs like Boston Public Radio right here on GBH is important to you by giving right now. Securely online, gbhnews.org, or call us 888-897-9424.
Just 5 contributions to go in the next couple of minutes to stay on track for this hour. The success of this membership drive depends on all of us joining together. Please help pay for the news by making your contribution now. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
And want to send a couple of thanks out. Monica in Plainville very simply says, let's go. Many O's on that. Thank you so much for your support, Monica. Kirsten in Canton, one of our newest members to the station, understands the importance of supporting public radio in Boston, and that's why they give. Thank you so much, Kirsten. And John in Methuen, Nancy in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, another new member to GBH. So much participation. That's what we're asking you to do. Show your support. Put a value on your listening. Go to the phone. give as generously as your budget allows at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
This is so exciting. We just got another 30 seconds here. Get on the phone, go online, make sure that you are signing up at $10 a month. Get that cargo organizer because it will be gone in the next minute. I'm not kidding around here. So $10 a month is a sustainer, $120 all at once. It's up to you how you do that, but we hope that you will do that now. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.